really excited to have you on the show. So, me and you met at a conference at the end of August or whatnot, and I saw you speak on stage, and I was fascinated with your story because the title of your speech was From In-Home to Facility in 6 months, which is, an impressive feat. I don't think I could have gotten a building a lot sooner, but I didn't get a building till year 6 in business, and you did it in 6. You had been training dogs for a while, and so you had already had a history of training dogs, but you set your mind to it. And then 6 months later, we're here. We're in the Take the Lead facility, which is awesome. But I was super impressed. And then I got to meet you, and then we started networking and became friends and stuff like that. And now I'm here in Ohio following your team around for a couple of days. And now you're on the show. So you've got a really impressive resume. So you started this in 2021, right? That's correct. The year that you actually started taking the lead. And it all started with a dog named Booberry, right?
It did start with a dog named Booberry. Yeah. She was a rescue dog that I got from a local rescue here in Columbus called Speak for the Unspoken. Yeah. And they are specializing in those special needs dogs that have an extra hard time on top of being a rescue because they have visual impairment, they're deaf, things like that. So she had come into my life when I was at a doggy daycare, and I had built that doggy daycare's program from scratch and ran it for 2 years.
The doggy daycare program. Yeah. It wasn't like training at the time.
No, it was. When I was at the doggy daycare, I built their training program.
Oh, I thought you meant like the daycare program.
No. Okay. They had been in business for a while, and I came in, and I was just I'd come off of my seeing eye dog job. Right. And I was like, okay, I want to stay in the animal field. Yeah. And I was like, well, I'll just work there as a daycare attendant. Yeah. And in the interview, I was like, hey, I don't know if you guys know this about me, but I have a pretty heavy trainer background, and I noticed that you don't have a training program. Yeah. And they're like, we don't. We were going to have a trainer come on board when we first opened, and we just haven't found somebody to fill that spot. So I was like, well, I'm happy to start on in daycare and boarding, but if that's something you want to expand your business into, I'm happy to step up and do that for you guys. So
quite the opportunity.
I'll take an opportunity when it presents itself. I know how to grab it. So that's what I did. I started working. I figured out the ins and outs of all the other departments. So I did grooming. I dabbled in boarding and daycare. And then we started putting together, I worked with the manager there, and we started to put together a training program.
Nice. That's awesome. So, and what year was that?
I would have started there in 2016. Gotcha. And I worked there 2018. And then I worked there from 2018 to 2020.
Yeah. We skipped over a lot of big stuff there. So you did the daycare and build a training program, but before that you trained CNI dogs. And then I know from your speech a long time ago, you were a marine biologist or had that and like a degree in that. And then didn't you work at a zoo and train animals at the zoo too? Yeah. I moved out. I grew up in Minnesota. Okay. So Wait, you don't have an accent.
I know. It's because my parents are from Minnesota. The only way you're going to hear it is if I say the word bag.
Yeah.
Yeah, there it is. Yep. It's my
What
A's.
Other words do they say funny? They say other funny words too.
There's some words like water and stuff like that, but my parents are from Illinois, so I didn't grow up hearing a really heavy Minnesota accent because they were from further south. Yeah. So I can do one as a really bad party trick. Yeah. Oh, don't you know?
That's it. That's what I was thinking about when I think of Minnesota people. Yeah, that's what I think about.
I can pull it out of a hat, but it's not super, super obvious if you don't know
it. Yeah. No, that makes sense.
So I had the whole millennial dolphin trainer cliche vibe that I was like, I'm going to train dolphins,
What were the movies, whenever we were kids, that the whale movies?
Yeah. Free Willy.
That was it. Yeah. Yep. Was that your inspiration?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I thought that was the coolest thing ever. I was like, of course I'm going to befriend a wild orca that definitely is.
You would probably know this better than I, but aren't actual wild orcas friendlier than zoo orcas or something?
They're kind of jerks.
Wild ones too?
Yeah, they're kind of the bullies of the ocean world. Humpback whales are usually very kind and friendly.
There's not and I could be wrong on this, but there's not an actual documented case of a wild orca killing somebody, is there? But in zoos, they kill people.
There are documented cases of that in the captive environment. Yeah. There was the whole...
Watch Blackfish.
Blackfish, yeah.
It's terrible. It makes you feel so sad. It's like watching a Sarah McLachlan commercial for dogs and rescues. It's like, Jesus Christ, I'm what a grind. Where I send my money to get orcas to be free?
I've always thought that they were a little too big to be in captivity. They're just at a certain point, an animal size is
that makes
way
sense.
more massive than it should have been.
Would you say that putting an orca in a big pool, even though it's a pool, it's a big pool, but compared to a regular pool, but it's super small. I mean, that basically would be like a dog like living its whole life in like a 6x10 kennel, basically. Maybe even smaller relatively, right? Like,
yeah, I mean, it's a tighter space for sure. One of the things that, I mean, once you started the whole breeding thing, though, you can't go backwards. Like, they're bred in captivity, so you can't put them back out in the wild because they don't know how to survive.
Okay.
Yeah. So sense. If they're bred in captivity, and they're
probably similar
fish.
to dogs, like most dogs. Like most dogs that are house pets wouldn't survive in the wild. Like there's a handful. Like Blueberry seems pretty resourceful, so I bet
Blueberry could cut it in the wild, but Buster is unfortunately not going to make. He's not making it.
Not making it. Okay,
no, not at all.
No, that's really interesting. I forgot where we were at, but
so I started off with a love of dolphins and marine life. So I did the whole dolphin trainer career path. I got a degree in marine biology at Whitewater, Wisconsin, and part of their program is they send you to Australia for a year, and they have you. It was so cool.
That's so cool.
And they have you study abroad. So, and Minnesota and Wisconsin have reciprocity, so I got to pay in-state tuition to do this too.
That's awesome. That's so cool.
So Australia was one of the coolest years of my life. I loved every minute of it.
Isn't the plane ride like 24 hours or something crazy? Like 20 hours or 24 hours?
Yeah, they are. The jet lag of going to Australia was insane.
I don't imagine. Yeah.
It was wild.
I have car lag from coming here. I drove overnight last night to get here. I have car lag. So I can only imagine what it's like flying in a tube all the way across the literal world.
You feel really out of it and like you're so woozy, but when we landed in there, we got in at like 8 a.m. and you can't go to sleep. Yeah. Like you have to stay up the whole day or you're screwed.
Yeah. I heard the key is, and this is from Joe Rogan, but I heard that the key is to work out as soon as you get off the plane. Like go exercise real hard and that'll like cure it apparently. I don't know if that's true. I've never been to Australia.
We were all running around kind of like drunk little toddlers though, because we were so out of it. We were like,
by last night.
And then a whole new country. And we're like, well, here we go.
Yeah. Last night when I got done, I left here, I think at 7:30, 7:45 or something like that. And I got in at 11, but I drove overnight from Memphis and I slept for 2 hours and then it was up. And then like by the time I got to where I was staying last night, I mean, the battery was like completely out. I literally kind of felt like a little like head buzz just because how tired I was. So I can only imagine, like I said, doing that in a tube. So I think I read on the bio that you sent me 2 sea lions, or did I make that up? No,
I did dolphin training, seals, and sea lions.
Which is the easiest to train?
Well, the thing that I find really interesting.
If that's not a good question, then what's the funnest to train?
I think that the sea lions were really cool because they're like half land, half aquatic. Yeah. So you can have them come up onto the land with you and like interact really close. Yeah. And then you can also do a lot of in-water stuff with them, which is really, really neat. I also think the thing that people don't realize is that they're mammals, so they're furry. Yeah. But when they completely dry out, they're really fluffy.
Really?
Yeah. And so
it's all the fur just like goes super slick where they look. Maybe I'm getting seals and sea lions mixed up in my head, but.
So sea lions are the like that stand upright, and seals scoot along on their bellies.
Yeah, but they also have the same kind of little fin things, don't they?
Yeah, but they're much smaller.
Okay, yeah, that's what I'm thinking of.
Yeah, the big flipper ones are sea lions. Yeah. But both of them they have like a waterproof fur coat. Yeah. So when they get wet, they get really slick and really aerodynamic in the water.
Yeah, and they look like it's not fur though. Whenever they're wet. Okay.
It looks like blubber or flubber like a dolphin
that makes sense. Yeah.
But it's actually fur. And then if you're really lucky, you can at night they all come up on land and sleep on land. Yeah. So they dry out all night. And in the morning when you would get in early at the zoo, they'd be all fluffy.
Wow, that's pretty cool. Yeah. Have you ever watched like the nature like David Attenborough series on like Netflix? Right. Yeah. You remember the seal falling off the mountain, the sea lion falling off the mountain? Yeah. That's like when I think of seals or sea lions, that's like what I think of. Yeah. I'll be honest, it's still like tough in my head to like tell the difference between the two because they look very similar, don't they?
Yeah, I mean they move through the water like little torpedoes.
Yeah, they're super cool though. Anyways, so at the Columbus Zoo, because you were there for 2 years, did you train dolphins there mainly?
The Columbus Zoo doesn't have dolphins. I was actually when I was in Australia they renamed it now. It was Dolphin Marine Magic was, I think, the name. They've renamed themselves recently since I was there. But there was a sea lion and a dolphin place in Australia that I worked. Gotcha. And I did, when I went to the Columbus Zoo, I worked for a company that was contracted to put on a show at the zoo. Gotcha. So I was an exotic animal trainer / performer. Yeah. And so we had like 25 dogs, 40 like domestic dogs and cats. And then we had an exotics animal department as well. And we put on, it is one of the coolest shows you ever see.
Yeah.
To go look up the Columbus Zoo shows. It also is the company that puts on all the shows, the dog and cat shows at SeaWorlds.
Wow.
So Dogs Rule.
They have dogs and cats at SeaWorld?
They do.
I didn't know that.
It's a cool show, man.
I've never
really
been,
love it.
and I feel like after watching Blackfish, I'd be like a sin to go or something. So how easy is it to switch to training dogs after training like sea lions and tigers and zebras and all the stuff that you've done in the past? How easy is the transition from like going to like wild, like I guess not wild sea life, but like zoo sea life to like training dogs? Like
a lot of the concepts I would say are the same. Yeah. So exotic animals are all trained food-based.
Yeah, I was going to say you can't really like negatively reinforce a behavior with a sea lion, right?
Not
like
particularly.
I guess you could because you can withhold food. That is the negative reinforcement.
You can withhold food and you can do a little bit of like ignoring or what they call like least rewarding scenario, which is like you just take a timeout basically. Yeah. So you can do that. But there is a rule about the health of the animals too. Yeah. You can only like withhold food so much or like
it's a problem.
Reproportion it to different meals and training sessions and stuff like that. Yeah. So
real quick, I'd like to correct myself for the record. Withholding food is negative punishment, not negative reinforcement. But I just wanted to clarify that. The internet idiots.
So there's only like you can do it to a degree, but there are a lot of like AZA rules in place about how you interact and how you handle the animals.
Makes sense.
So the amount of intricacies when it came to my clicker training and my techniques like that grew like crazy being in the exotic animals because it's so meticulous. Like we would write out these huge multi-step processes for how you would train any kind of behavior. And a lot of them, I really love the husbandry behaviors.
Give me like an example of like, you don't have to go into like the crazy details of it, but like a behavior that you would train like an animal like that to do. And then some of the intermediate steps, because I could name it for like dog training. Like I just, on one of the last podcasts or the one that's coming out like after we, shoot this or right before this goes live is one where I answered like how to train your dog to push buttons on an elevator, So it's like, that's the big behavior. And then we break it up into like small, like little bites or whatnot. Well, it'd be like an example like that for a marine animal.
There are a lot of really cool ones for dolphins in particular. If you wanted to do, for example, those bow jumps, where they come out of the water, they jump and they go back down. You start off with a target and you can slap the target on the water to show them where it's at. And then you hoist it up and they have to first like learn to touch on dolphins, their rostrum to the target, and then you like move the target through the water and raise it up higher, and they have to bow jump. But a lot of places too will do multi jumps, so they'll have like 3 or 4 dolphins that will jump at the same time. So you have to teach them to like jump as a group, and then how many times you want them jumping, where you want them jumping. Those are some of the really cool things. My favorite behavior, I think, was the trainer orca dive, and you can do it with dolphins too, where the trainer and the orca go underwater together, and the trainer will position themselves on the rostrum of the dolphin or whatever, and then they'll jump together and dive together and then go under the water. And I was always impressed by that's pretty cool air hold that you have to have,
right?
Because they will dive all the way down, and they're going to go really deep to come up high enough. So like the pressure, that your ears have to withstand to go down and then come back up out of the water, and then they make this beautiful like swan dive. I was like, oh my god. Yeah, that is so.
Did you ever do that?
Cool.
Anything like that?
Oh god, no! You had to be such a senior trainer to get to do that kind of stuff. Yeah.
So, would you consider like what's like? How about this? Would be you say is like the easiest like dog breed to train, or like a couple of? How about this? Would a dolphin be like a really enthusiastic dog student? Basically, like is that like a good equivalent? Like because they seem so smart.
They definitely have. Dolphins have a much higher intelligence, like IQ, than dogs do. So I find that they have such interesting personalities that are so much more complex because they can have higher brain capacities than a dog. One of the things that I find really interesting that I've seen, it's not like a hard rule, but it's more often a trend than incorrect, is that there's a difference between a lot of times the males and females. So a female animal will pick up, and I've seen this like across multiple species at this point, is that a female animal will pick up things much quicker and they learn really, really quick. If you started a male and a female at the same age doing the same trick, the female would often finish it faster. However, they're more temperamental about it.
Yeah.
Like they'll just decide they don't really want to do it that day, or they're like, I don't want to.
The human species.
I said all species, and we count as animals. So the males are much slower on the uptake, but they tend to be a lot more reliable when they finally get it.
Interesting.
So if we had like big wigs coming to events and things like that,
pull out the boys.
You pull the boys out. Yeah, 100%. You pull out the senior boys. You're like, Old Faithful is here to work, and I know he isn't going to give me a lot of trouble and a lot of attitudes. So.
Yeah. So I guess taking it back to dogs. So whenever you started, it sounds like you made the transition from like training like marine animals to then moving into dogs, and you started doing that at the daycare. Did you have Booberry at the time, or was this like pre-Booberry?
This was like incongruent with Booberry time. So while I was there, one of the things they did is they had a foster spot available at the daycare. They had a kennel that was like the speak for the unspoken kennel. Yeah. And we would have dogs that come in that would stay with us for a while that need some rehabilitation. Yeah. And then they would find their homes and they'd go out and we would get a new like resident foster basically.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool.
So Booberry came in. She had been adopted out by the rescue as a puppy, and a family had her, and she was just too much.
Yeah.
Her big thing is she really struggles meeting men.
Yeah.
And I was wildly impressed. She picked up to and took to you like
I was about to say, crazy. I'm proud to report she loves me. She loves me.
For those at home, Corey's his best friend.
To be fair, though, I have been just force feeding her snacks the whole time. So every time I walk in, I'll go, "Is it a Booberry?" And she'll be like, "I'm a Booberry." And so I'll just start handing her snacks.
Are you the man with the beef bits?
Yes, exactly. Yeah. No, and plus I do have really good snacks. So
only the best.
Good snacks. So whenever you started at the daycare, you said you kind of built their training program, because I feel like as a trainer, from what I remember about your speech, like you've kind of had an evolution as a trainer too, in terms of like where you started, like in terms of like methods and training methods and stuff to where you're at now. And things like that. So at the daycare, was that like just positive only training, or were y'all using like training equipment to train dogs back then, or how'd that work?
It was pretty positive based, and because that was their core values and how they wanted to run the facility. And that was what I had come from the marine world,
right.
And the exotic animal training at the Columbus Zoo was all clicker positive reinforcement based. So I started there. I was like, perfect, I can do that. I've known how to do that forever. Well, the conflict that I kept running into was I would get difficult dogs like Booberry, because she came in to that foster spot and they were like, "Hey, Lindsay, this dog needs extra help. Right. She's been returned to us a year-old because of her male reactivity.
Right.
She's barking, she's growling. She didn't have a bite history,
right? Because
it was coming from a place of like fear and insecurity."
Yeah, of course.
So she came in and I did all my usual stuff, but she was just like sitting and sitting and sitting, and I was having a really hard time having a breakthrough moment with this dog.
When you say sitting, like, what do you mean?
Like she was there at the facility for weeks and weeks and weeks.
Right. Not like literally.
Because she was a pit bull that had reactivity issues, and the growling and the barking is really scary, and nobody really wanted to.
You're reading Facebook posts about dogs for adoption. I mean, that would make it tough to be like, "Yeah, I'll pick that one, please." Yeah.
You just know you're signing up for.
But once you get to know her, though, you're like, "Oh my God, you're the best." Yeah.
She's really fun to train.
Yeah, I got to watch her work too yesterday. She is enthusiastic, especially for 6 years old too. I mean, she is moving and grooving. Yeah, I was telling you yesterday. I mean, she is like strikingly similar in temperament to Mia. Like, and Mia is gotten much better over the years, like as she's gotten older and stuff, but just like doesn't really like people very much, and I mean, it's just how some dogs are, and like I was just talking to your team this morning about it, like about the nature versus nurture argument. And it could, be mostly nature and it could be mostly nurture, or it could be like a good mix of both. And Mia's was like mostly nurture. Like she just came out of the womb like, I'm loyal to this guy and the people that he is loyal to, but after that, like, I don't care about you at all. And in fact, I don't just not care about you. I don't like you, and like I said, now she's gotten a lot better just because, it's been a positive, piggy bank of positive interactions, like year after year after year after year. So like now she sees people and she's like, whoa, this is awesome, but it's not without hard work, as I'm sure
Especially because we both have really high drive dogs.
Oh yeah.
Like Boo you could clicker train that dog for an hour and she's not going to run out of steam.
Yeah.
Like she's ready to get up and go.
Yeah, she ran through 3 of your team members yesterday.
And she was like, are we done? I'm not done yet. Get that clicker back out.
Yeah.
Who's next?
Yeah. Yeah. So. No, she's a lot of fun to watch work. So anyways, so you get her though, and you're having trouble because she's sitting at the daycare place in the foster kennel for like weeks at a time. And imagine you being the animal lover you are and working with her and stuff. You like fell in love with her. And you're like, damn, I don't want to see this dog sitting here anymore. Like,
it was tough. And I finally kind of had done everything in my treat-based clicker training toolbox, and I just couldn't quite get where I wanted to go, because as soon as I could get the barking gone, she would go up and say hi. Yeah. So if I could just interrupt the barking and bring her back into her body a little bit, she'd go say hi and make a friend immediately.
Yeah.
And then there was a big pivotal moment when I started doing a lot of play work with her. So when you met her, remember how I made you play fetch right away? 5 minutes in, you were her best friend. Ball is life to that dog.
Yeah, that's how I introduce people to Mia too. Like I'll be,
you're gonna play fetch.
Yeah, before I like let her go see somebody, I'll like, hey, go get your tennis ball. You know, whenever, because our building is like split, like front and back, like, and there's a big glass door that separates them, and so she'll be at the back door, like barking and scratching the door, like I want to go see him, and then. If it's somebody new that she doesn't know, I'll like open it. I'll be like, go get a tennis ball. She'll run around, go grab one. Then she's like, okay, let's go. I get to beat him and stuff. So yeah,
I love her already.
I can definitely relate. I know that's like my only regret of this trip is I didn't bring her, and I should have. But yeah, anyways.
Yeah. So I finally was like, well, let's explore. Like I've got to try something new. So I started doing a bunch of research into some more balanced style training techniques, and I was like, well, let's start playing around with all of this.
For people that aren't dog trainers, what does balance mean?
So balance means that you already did this a little, so I'm going to dive in. There are 4 quadrants of learning, of operant conditioning. One of them is the positive reinforcement that everybody knows.
Just to clarify too, operant conditioning, you could basically like shorthand that for how dogs learn or how people learn and stuff. It's just how the style, like, and
it's a style
there's
of
4
learning.
boxes. Yeah. And that's how dogs learn. Yeah.
Yep. So there's positive and negative, and then there's reinforcement and punishment. But I think the common misconcept is that everybody always thinks that negative is bad and positive is good.
Right.
And
it
reinforcement.
Does get a little tricky.
Yeah, it is. And reinforcement and punishment are good and bad too, which they're not. You have to take emotions out of this and just look at it objectively. And this, when I opened my facility and I started training other trainers, I'm taking in a lot of trainers that have no training background at all.
Right.
And so this is just like blowing their mind.
Yeah.
But positive means you add something to the environment, like a treat. Negative is
and
you take something away.
if you're looking at like a graph of operant conditioning, when she's saying positive means plus sign. And like negative means minus sign. Yep. So like if you're looking up operant conditioning, by the way, I did a whole episode on this. So if you want to like a breakdown of it, you can go. It's like one of the first 10 episodes, but it's called How Dogs Learn, and it's like a whole breakdown of all of this.
It's so cool.
in depth. But anyways, just to clarify, positive means plus, negative means minus sign.
Yep. Yeah. And it's adding and removing, not good and bad.
Yeah.
And then reinforcement and punishment just have to do with the frequency of the behavior.
Right.
So you reinforce, you want to see more of whatever behavior you're looking for, and punishment is you want to see less of that, like reduce that behavior. Yeah. So I wanted to reduce her barking.
Right.
So that she could finally go up and say hi to people. So I started expanding into the other 3 quadrants and utilizing the bigger picture more. Right. And that's when I had like my big aha moments.
Yeah, cool.
And so when I say balanced training, that's, I kind of think of it as giving like feedback. You're
using like a holistic approach to train the dog, basically. Yeah. Like if we've got like 4 quadrants, you're not just like picking from one. And like, cause I mean, I'm sure you'd agree with this too, but one of the big misconceptions of positive only training is that it's just positive only, right? But then if you withhold food, what is that, right? That's negative punishment, because you're withholding something that the dog wants, which is inherently a negative thing. Yep. And by the way, I mean, negative punishment sounds the worst out of all 4, and it's not really that bad. No. It's like, it's not really that bad. So, and then you get into positive punishment, which is an actual punishment on pop on a leash, tap on a remote collar, something like that. And you're like, that is, I guess objectively worse than withholding a snack or a meal or something like that, and that actually sounds decent. Positive punishment. It's like, that's not so bad compared to negative punishment, which is just, putting a snack back in your pouch. Like, I'm not giving it to you right now. That kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah. And like positive punishment can be something as easy as like, if you're playing ball with your dog and they bark at you pushy to throw the ball more, you can just take the ball, remove it, negative, and like, cause you want to decrease the barking, and you just put it up.
Yeah.
Like that's as simple as it is sometimes. Yeah. But I really liked the yin yang approach of being able to be like, yep, I like this behavior. Here you go, have a snack. Yeah. No, I'm not a big fan of this behavior. Tug on my leash. Let's walk away and try this again.
Yeah.
So that when I started to bring the bigger picture and widen out all of my approaches, that's when Boo had her biggest breakthroughs.
Yeah.
And it just didn't work out all that well, that those training techniques were not what the daycare wanted to do. And that's not how the program they wanted to run. And I was like, there are a lot of positive reinforcement only based, like,
it's like you saw the light and you're like trying to get them to see the light.
No, I was like, and they're like, that's just Lindsay.
I can fix every dog now. There's no limits.
So they let me experiment around a little bit with some of the stuff, but they weren't as much into prong collars and e-collars and some of the tools that I needed to be as efficient as possible. And I kept getting in these like dogs that were biting humans and attacking other dogs. Yeah. And I was like, this is a lot of work to clicker train all of this. Like I could get faster and get this dog to a healthier place if I could just expand. Have you seen the meme
of like the, and I have it somewhere on my phone, but it's like the crazy dog that's like biting somebody and it's like, I'm going to wait until he's done and then I'm going to click him for letting go.
never seen that one.
It's so good. It's like, yeah. I mean, I always tell people though too, like just to clarify, and as Lindsay just stated, she's balanced. We're both balance trainers, and that once again just means like using the whole thing, right? And it's like, and using. And I would also go on like as far as say it's also like using like the least to get the most too. Like I want to use like the least amount of food and the least amount of corrections or punishment or whatever technical word you want to apply to that. But it's about using the least to get the most, right? Like if I don't have to bribe the dog with a snack, I don't want to do that. If I don't have to use a remote collar to reinforce a behavior or get a dog to not do something, like I don't want to use that either. Like my goal is eventually I just want to be able to tell the dog to do something, and it just does it because I say it, right? That's the idea. Yep. I was going to say something and lost where I was headed with that. So
that's fair. I think that. One of the things I've noticed too, because our company Taking the Lead specializes in aggression, reactivity, and separation anxiety, I'm seeing so many clients at their like worst. They're
I saw some of your videos that you showed me yesterday of some of your crazy ones. I'm like, Jesus Christ. Yeah. That's a lot of work.
They're at their wits' end. This is the last ditch hope. Like I can't wait a year and a half for this training to finally click in with a slower approach. I want to.
And if you've got unlimited time, it's amazing. Like if you've got unlimited time and you've got an owner that's like willing to play ball or willing to like take on the bulk of the load, and like, but with a lot of dogs and timelines, unfortunately, it's like that just can't happen.
I gotta get the biting down. I gotta get the dog safe again. Yeah. So
I have to ask, was this Frankie Ray's last stop on the block? Like last house on the block for her?
It was. Frankie Ray was on her last.
She was one of your tough dogs that I got to meet yesterday. Also didn't seem to like men very much, but me and her made quick friends too. So
I know it's those sweet beef treats. And I would say too that if you have a dog that's struggling with something like that, the lesson we did about how we introduce her to people, less is way more with an introverted, like reserved dog like that. So because you were so like you just ignored the dog and act like it wasn't there at all, it gave her the confidence to come interact with you without feeling that social pressure of all your attention
rather
on her.
Rather than being like, don't worry about this. Dogs love me. And like going like,
yeah. She hated, she would have hated
Christ,
that.
People settle down. This dog doesn't like, I get it. Dogs like you, but not this one. Chill, please chill. No, I get it. No, she was super sweet. I always like, cause we don't really train dogs that have like a bite history necessarily. Like we'll work with reactive dogs, that, bark. And like my definition for reactive, the simplified version is dogs that like bark at people or dogs on a leash or behind a barrier. And as soon as the barrier or leash is removed, they're normally fine, right?
Yep.
If they've actually bitten a dog or person, that would then move them into the aggressive category, right? So, and if we do take on aggressive dogs, like we've got one in training right now, but it's normally on like a very case-by-case basis, where it's like, because whenever, as you know, like when you're training new people to train dogs or, it's a lot to like, because you're still hands-on with a lot of the aggressive dogs you take on, like all your, friendly dogs, you've got trainers and employees working with and stuff, but like all the hand-on, so it takes a lot to impart those skills and that knowledge into another person to be able to, transform a dog that bites people to like not biting people or where the risk is doesn't bite people, but where the risk is substantially lowered. It takes a lot of skill and know-how and finesse to be able to make something like that happen.
Yeah. It's I have a title here at the facility called Senior Trainer. Yeah. And that is an entire program that's built around what it takes to work those kinds of dogs because we get them frequently. So we do muzzle safety training and we'll do proper approaches and walkaways and what do they do, how to use bite gloves and bite sleeves if they are like to be safe. Cause a lot of dogs
get Frankie out of the kennel.
A lot of Frankie coming out of the kennel. A lot of the things about it is they've lunged and snapped before and then everybody backs up every time. And so the dog has learned, if I'm uncomfortable and I want space, if I lash out, they'll back away. But protective gear allows you to like not push them past their point, but not yield.
Because you're not scared. Yeah.
Because you know that.
Or a bite sleeve or something like that on. Yeah. No, that makes sense. Yeah. I always tell people, training fearful dogs is like so fun because it's tougher than like, you're just like happy go lucky, like golden doodle for sure. Yep. But the reward there at the end of it is just so different because like whenever you see a dog come out of its shell, it's like, it's such a warm feeling because like yesterday, like meeting Frankie for the first time, whenever she was nervous about me to like by the end when our owner had her and she's like, running, I put my hand down and she's like, oh my God, he put his hands down. And she's like running up to me trying to jump in my lap. And the owner's like so happy. She's like, I don't get to see this very often. I'm like, I know, it's amazing. It's like so fun because the reward, I guess it's just so immediate. It's right in front of you, and it takes a little bit of time to get there. But once you're there, you're like, wow, there's nothing better.
The things that I tell my trainers a lot is that you are going to have an owner that like breaks down and cries on you at some point. Like that's just a rite of passage. Yeah. So I've had people that come in evals and meet with me and they see me work their dog. And by the end of the eval, they're in tears because they're like, the relief of finally feeling like this might work for them.
Yeah.
I think Frankie's owner has had many like a breakdown moment in a lesson.
Yeah.
The first male that Frankie met,
she scared him in previously?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I mean, Frankie was scared of everybody.
You were asking her about Christmas, and you were like, did she see males or something? And it sounded like, I didn't ask to clarify, but it sounded like she actually did like males. That's why I was wondering.
Oh, no, she struggles more with men. Males. I mean, she struggles with anybody she doesn't know, period. She's a little bit quicker to warm up to females than males.
That makes sense.
But she struggles with both of them pretty strongly. But that owner has had a couple like happy tear moments. Oh, yeah. It's always fun because like I'm confident and I know we're going to get where we need to go.
Yeah.
And the owners are very unsure, but there's always this big light bulb moment that goes off for them that for me, it just makes it all worth it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So going back to Blueberry, so you had like big like aha moments with her. Mm-hmm. Daycare wasn't really on board with like how you got there with her. And so you tried some of that. They weren't really on board with it. So then you moved off and you were like, I'll just do my own thing. Right. Yeah. Is that kind of how it went? Yeah.
We just parted ways. We're like, hey, listen, mad respect that this isn't going to work out and I'll go do my own thing. And they've found a new trainer that specializes in that, the techniques that they want to use. So like, awesome. But I think one of the funniest moments, and this is what everybody kind of thinks, is they're like, oh, Lindsay, you were pushing so hard to get Blueberry. I was actually not originally.
Yeah. Because did you have a dog at the time?
I did. I had Buster, my older dog, and he was like a real chill couch potato kid. He was a year old and acted like he was 8. Like he's like, I'm gonna sleep on the couch, eat my treats, and go to bed, and I'm a happy little clam. And he loves everybody and he loves every dog. If Buster doesn't like you,
his tag says, I like to snuggle my muggle.
Yeah, that's my man. He's got his mischief managed collar on. He's good to go.
That's funny.
So
anyways,
I wasn't
he doesn't
on.
Like you though. You're like something's wrong with you. Yeah.
I was like, he's too
got
easy.
Bad vibes. Yeah.
I knew I wanted my first dog to be a bit of a cakewalk. I was like, we're not starting with a project.
Yeah. No, that makes sense.
So
you got Buster after you'd already started training.
Yeah. Oh, I had, where was I?
Well, you'd already been training other animals.
Yeah, I'd been, I was at the doggy daycare when I got Buster because it was when I bought my home in 2016 and I was like, I'm going to get a house, then I'm going to get a dog. Yeah, so
makes sense. Got a big backyard for him to run in and play in and stuff. Yeah, no, that makes sense.
Yeah, so Boo, originally I was like, oh, God, that dog's a lot. Like she is high drive. Yeah. She needs a lot of energy outlet and she's got like reactivity issues that I was still new to learning how to handle. So I was not super like, I want Blueberry right now at first. And the more I trained with her, there was one day that I remember and it was Memorial Day. And my like boyfriend, now husband, I needed men and we only had one guy on staff at the training facility. So I was like, sup, honey, I need you to come in with me on your holiday day off and come meet this dog that wants to scream at men. And so I had briefed him. I was so ready. I was like, this is what we're going to do. This is the exercise. This is what I need you to do. I want you to ignore her. Don't reach for her. She loved him
immediately.
Yeah, she did. I had this whole protocol in place. Yeah. And we were all ready to go. And I was like, you stand here. I'm going to bring her out. Yeah. She ran right up into that man's lap, like, didn't bark at it once and sat right down and was like,
was it his idea to get her?
Yeah. Well, okay. So the way the story works is that I had like a work wife at the time, like my bestie at the daycare. And everyone's like, Lindsay, you should get a Blueberry. I was like, I don't know, man. I'm a little on the fence about it. Yeah. And then I turned to Ryan and he was like, well, I didn't say no to Blueberry. I was like, honey, that is not a yes though. Like not no is not yes. Yeah. And so it was funny because
so it's basically yes.
Yeah. Both of those were like, he was like, well, she loved me right away. So I was like, oh, you, and he's been so sweet on her. I was like, that's his little girl. And
that's amazing.
Babies are like crazy. So everyone else was like, you should go get her. And I was warming up. The biggest hurdle for me was she was really prey drivey and I had a cat. And I was like, like that could be, she could just eat that cat one day. I could see it. So we did like a foster to adopt thing. So I took her into my home. I took her out of the kennel, took her into my home for a couple weeks. And slowly, we had to do it really slow. Like we would bring Boo out and we'd have the cat out and we would supervise him, keep an eye on him. I did a lot of tether training in that phase where I would tie Boo to like the leg of the couch or heavy pieces of furniture so that I knew that if a mistake were to happen and she were to go for the cat, at least she was back tied and she could like the cat had enough speed that she could get away.
No, that makes sense.
Now we never had an issue. They were totally fine. Yeah. She would get really stiff, which always made me a little anxious because stiffness is never not like good. A great sign. But now the cat cleans her ears. So she'll come up and put her head on the couch and the cat will just like lick her ears clean. Yeah,
when I walked in and I met your husband last night, the cat was on the couch and I was like, they don't ever chase the cat. And he's like, nope, never. I was like, no, sometimes if we're not home, but like never have problems. I was like, okay, cool.
They try it when we have like sitters or company over. What he was saying. If they think that you're a bit of a pushover, they're like,
let me see if I can chase this cat around. Yeah, no, that makes sense. Yeah. Well, that's super cool. So then I guess tell me about the name, because I'm sure there's some thought behind like naming your business. So it's called Taking the Lead, you know? And so what does that like mean to you? Like,
so this is a really touching story and I will try to keep it together. My mom actually helped me pick out the name of my company.
Yeah, very cool.
Yeah. And she passed away really shortly afterwards.
Oh man.
I know. So it's really heartwarming and very special to me because she helped me work through the name. But we would sit down with a whole notepad and like Google a bunch of different like training terms and words and like try to put together a combination that had the right feel.
Yeah.
I really want to I've always loved service dog work. So I wanted the company name to have a very empowering feel to it.
Yeah.
And I always preach with my clients a lot that we have to be the leaders with our dogs. You have to step up. You need to take control of the situation. You need to tell your dog what you're expecting out of them.
Yeah,
so that your nervous dogs have good leadership and good guidance about what you're expecting out of them.
Yeah.
And so I wanted it to have a name that like could turn into some service dog empowering feels to it.
Yeah.
And then also encompass that leadership piece of it. So we had been playing about, and I didn't want like, like cutie cartoony name. I wanted it to have like a really big confident feel to it.
Yeah.
So my mom helped me pick out the name of my company.
Nice. Did y'all have a close second?
No, it was it was one of those things. I've always had these like,
I know,
like divine moments, when it just it just feels exactly right. Like when I put my wedding dress on for the first time, this is it. You just feel it.
Yeah. I've been there a number of times in my life.
Yeah. I've had these very serendipitous moments. It was this like same thing with prom dresses. It just, you found the right one and it just, that was
clicked.
it.
Yeah. You're like, this
so when the name came up, like we found it, we came up with it, we were like, ooh, we played around with other names and it never compared.
Stick. Yeah. No, that
never
makes
compared.
Sense.
It was
completely
like,
opposite of me. What I named, it was not Wonder Dog originally. A lot of people don't know, but it used to be called One Dog Obedience Training.
Ooh.
And right.
Wonder Dog is better.
Yeah. Wonder Dog is way better. But yeah, I was in dog training school and we had to like do like a business project of like, creating like what pages you'd have on a website, like just like different business related stuff or whatnot. And, I was like, I just need a business name. So my brother was like, you should call it One Dog. And like, he had this like cool, like, with like a German Shepherd in the logo and stuff like that, And so I was like,
done.
I need a business name. All right, cool. We'll call it One Dog. And then I dropped the obedience. So it was just One Dog Training. And then I brought my dad on board to help me, that first year. And, he was like, yeah, we should rebrand to Wonder Dog. And I was like, duh. Yeah, that makes sense. So we did. And then it's been One Dog ever since. Yeah. But yeah, you put a little bit more thought into it than I did.
We were workshopping it for a while.
But there's like meaning behind it in the sense that like you also, like you said, you want it to be empowering. And like the idea here is like, take the lead. You're kind of running the show, right? Like your dog's falling in line and things like that. Yeah. I always tell people like, and I'm sure you'd agree, but there's like a balance too with like, quote, like being the leader, right? Cause it's like, you don't necessarily need to be the leader in like an overbearing, like old school, I guess kind of like dominant kind of way or whatnot. No. Like some dogs, sure. But like the majority of house pets, it's like, you don't need to be the overbearing dictator, right?
A good leader to me, has rules and boundaries and sets expectations.
Yeah.
But they're also just as empowering and supportive. You don't have to be harsh to be a good leader. You can show kindness and empathy.
Yeah, of course.
But without being a pushover about it.
Yeah,
and
that makes sense.
I see that a lot, is that so many people like feel like they're being harsh by just setting some really basic boundaries with their dogs.
It's like, but dogs shouldn't jump out of the door as soon as you open an Amazon package. They shouldn't just slip out the door behind you.
They shouldn't knock down grandma.
Yeah, exactly.
I was like, these are just, for me, this is the standard of what I expect out of a dog.
Yeah. So. Yeah. On the, within the last like 4 or 5 podcasts, one of the questions that somebody wrote in was, how do I know if my dog respects me? Or it was something like that. Or like, how do I get my dog to respect me? Or what does respect mean? Or something like that. Yeah. And my kind of general answer is like, whatever it looks like to you, because it's like different for everybody, because like, I'm sure you have some clients that are like, No, even if you tell me to not let my dog sleep in the bed, they're sleeping in the bed with me, right? Like I'm sure you get that, and so it's like, well, yeah, it's just whatever rules and boundaries you have set in place. And if you don't have any, then your dog, it's like, that's up to you. But if like you've got a rule and a boundary in place and it's like, yeah, your dog has to listen to that, like your dog has to say, yes, I'm going to listen and respond.
Yeah. I always like to say that your dog will meet and clear whatever standards you're willing to uphold.
Yeah.
So if you set your standards really, really low, I mean, a dog is an opportunist at heart. Sure. They'll just clear the bare minimum if that's all you're expecting out of them. I have really high standards for my dogs. I was like, you are not going to jump on people. You're not going to run out the door. You're not pulling me down the sidewalk.
Yeah.
So you're not sleeping in bed with me. For me, everyone's like, well, Lindsay, do you sleep with your dogs in bed? Yeah. And I was like, I'm a light sleeper. I can't. I'll never go to bed if they're rolling around in bed with me. Yeah. So no, they sleep on the floor.
Me, I sleep on the bed. I love her. I love it. We're best friends.
But, that I set high standards and a dog will always rise to whatever standard you're willing to set and enforce.
Do you believe though that like if your dog sleeps in the bed with you that it like doesn't respect you, or that for your dog to respect you, they have to like not, do you know what I'm talking about? I'm sure you've heard that before.
Oh, I've gotten that question all the time. My biggest rule in general with the dog in the bed and the dog in the furniture is I always ask myself, like, is this causing a problem?
Sure.
So like, for example, if I have a dog that really struggles with separation anxiety, I have a hard rule that dog can't be in bed with you. They're going to have to
separation.
Yeah. They need some separation. They need to be like either on the floor or in a crate or something away from you because they need to learn how to calm down and self-soothe without you.
Yeah.
And if they're in bed with you and then you go on vacation or you leave or you're away for a little while or you just go to work and their whole world shatters to pieces.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, that always breaks my heart because I was like, "Why? Your whole world shouldn't fall apart just because I'm not in the room with you."
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
so I have a rule about that with my clients is that if you have an anxious dog,
the ones that are like
the nervous kiddo's got to sleep alone and they got to figure out how to do it.
That makes sense. Do you, and then for like,
for like the furniture and couch and stuff like that, that's another one that people ask me a lot about. For example, if I have a dog that bites, guess what I'm not letting you do? Sit up on the couch this close to my face. Yeah, like exactly. your chompy bits are not going where my eyeballs are.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And then rules too, like I will, you can do things like let your dogs in the furniture and stuff like that. I have an invite rule. So the general rule is if I've not invited you on the couch, you are not allowed up. Yeah. But I do like a tap system where I was like, all right, up. And then they come up and they're happy to be up on the couch with me. And then as soon as I say off, the rule is you got to get back down.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So you can have those kinds of things in your life if you have structures and some boundaries about when to be up and when to be not. You're not allowed on the furniture when I have company over. I don't know if everybody loves dogs up in their face, and so I'm not going to assume
that they do.
That you do. So, and if you want, fine, I'll bring my dogs up on the couch, but then I can take it person by person.
Yeah, because you do see like sometimes like in the dog training space, like, or that you'll hear where it says, people say rather, it's like always or never, not sometimes and maybe or whatnot. And like, I feel like couch manners, like you just described, or like tapping on the, that is sometimes kind of a gray area. Cause like never is black, always is white. Right. And then the gray is like, yeah, you can come on like the couch if I invite you. Right. So
I find at least this is my take on it. I find that a more advanced dog can understand the concepts of gray areas. But if you bring me a brand new dog that has zero manners and is bouncing off the walls,
you're gonna start with no furniture.
I'm gonna start with very simple and black and white rules. And it feels like I tell people, I was like, I can be the mean old lady. I can be the grouch. And your husband can blame me for saying the dog can't be up on the lazy boy with him. But I'm going to start with very black and white rules. And when the dog has gotten on board with all of that, then I can always add it back in. Yeah. But I'm going to take away a lot to begin with, get us to a healthier place with the dog to reduce whatever the unwanted behaviors are, barking, reactivity, pulling on leash, aggressions, and growling. Then I will add things back. I say my dogs can earn privileges back one at a time through good behavior.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. Yeah. No, I like that a lot. Yeah. And I think it makes sense to like you said, kind of like start like a little bit more strict and then like give the dog like more freedom over time or whatnot, where they, like I said, earn it back. Yeah, earn it back for sure. Yeah,
it's not gone forever. It's just gone for now.
Yeah. So I'm sure one of the things that I'd written down that I want to talk to you about is like, kind of like one of your favorite dogs that you've trained, one of your least favorite, and then like one of your hardest that's like taught you the most outside of Blueberry? Because I'm sure that that's like, because like with Mia, like me and Mia, like I got Mia, you know, the quick version is like I was 19, parents said no dogs, they go on vacation, come home to a Malinois puppy, and they were not happy, you know. And so anyway, she got kicked. She got kicked out. I did like my own boot camp on her basically to like bring her back home, and then it's kind of like happy ever after, right? But like that was definitely the dog that taught me the most, right? Because like when you're a young trainer, like you make a bunch of mistakes, you know, especially with your own dog. It's like those first dogs that you get whenever you're a trainer, it's like, yeah, like God's got a special place for them, because it's like, you know, you learn a lot of lessons, you know, on your own dog. So I'm sure that if I was like, what dog taught you the most lessons, would probably be her. But what would be like a dog in training? You don't have to say the name if like you don't want to, but like what would be one of your harder dogs that have like kind of taught you the most? And like, what are some of the things they've taught you?
I would say there's 3 dogs that come to mind right off the bat, and I'll give kind of a brief overview. 2 of them are actually up on the wall over there.
Yeah, by the way, we didn't point this out, but this is your review wall, and all these people are people, you know, that have had their lives changed.
Yeah, absolutely. The 2 that come to mind right away that I've loved working with the most are Peyton and Duke. And it's funny because I've actually become really good friends with their owners. So Peyton is
it's got the human names on there, not that I don't.
Yeah. So Crystal Holly is
the name isn't big and white right at the top.
Yeah, the dog's name.
Peyton Duke. Okay, duh.
Yeah. So the dachshund Peyton, he had been to 4 other trainers, and they'd done everything. They had a trainer that did more balance work. They had a trainer that did just click-based training. And Crystal and her wife Amber had come to me, and they were like, we're just Hail Marying this at this point. Like, I have no idea. So I reworked the techniques that some of the other trainers had been doing and showed them a more advanced way to work through all of it. Yeah. And Peyton couldn't, like, as soon as he saw a dog or even a human, he just was screaming his head off.
Really?
Yeah. It was from like paces and paces away. Like we couldn't even step outside the apartment, and he was losing it.
Was this one of your in-home clients? But before
this was before the facility. Yep, because I would do in-homes. But since then, we do alumni social events for our graduates where we do free group classes twice a month. So he has then since come into the building. Yeah. And I think Crystal has been one of my biggest cheerleaders forever. I love her to pieces. And every time I'm having a down day, she just reminds me how awesome my journey with Peyton was. And
I've done that before on bad days where you're like, is this all worth it? And then you go read some of your reviews and you're like, okay, I got to.
Sometimes I just text Crystal, and she'll send me her good days and she'll send me her bad days. Yeah. That the sharing the wins, I think, is huge. Oh, that she was like, you won't believe it. Yeah. But they inadvertently moved into like a retirement style community on accident. Oh, wow. So they're like 30 odd something and the entire community is like little old ladies that play bridge. And so we did this, this treat-based technique and things like that. And so we would walk up, and now like we worked through all of his barking and stuff. And he had a similar thing with Boo where like as soon as he could get up to them and say hi, the screaming would stop. Yeah. But he would just bark and wail until then. So he now walks around, he has a little route, and he says hi to all the little old ladies sitting on their porch, and they all feed him little treats. And some of the ladies have had like gotten to walk him and stuff, which is like, I mean, how far this dog has come. And I feel like a lot of people could easily write off a wiener dog that's screaming all the time. And just the dedication of that owner was everything to me, because I don't think we would have gotten that dog as far if she wasn't as committed as I was to the progress.
There's nothing better than getting a great owner as a client. Like it's like, because
I'll take a bad dog and an amazing owner every day.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, because I mean, there's just something about it. Like when you've got a client that's on board their game, they want to do what you tell them, and they're willing to put the effort in. It's like it can erase like having like a couple terrible clients like at the same time where you're like, I hate this, and so having a great owner is awesome. Yeah. No, that makes sense. I was just going to say, we had a German Shepherd one time in Collierville, which is suburban Memphis. And this German Shepherd would scream like a banshee every time she saw a dog. Yeah. And this was like 5 years ago. And the guy saw my shirt and remembered Wonder Dog on the back of it. And he has a friend, and he just referred somebody to trade it like 3 months ago it was actually this year. Yeah, it was like a month ago. He referred somebody to trade it, and he's always traded this German Shepherd 5 years ago. And he's like, if you can fix that, you could definitely fix my friend's Easy Dog. And he wasn't even a client. He was just somebody that saw me training the dog at the apartment. Yeah.
He was like, this is the one.
Cool. So you're saying Duke too. He's like
Duke's another one. Yep. So I love Duke's owner, again, a whole bunch. Her and I like swap book stories and stuff back and forth for a little tiny book club. But Duke she has a really cool story. She had gone to a shelter because she wanted a cat, and they didn't have any cats. And so they're like, she was walking through the aisles, and Duke had never gotten up at the rescue off of his bed for anybody. And when Juliana walked by, he like came right up to the window immediately. Aww. And the people at the shelter were like, hey, I know you're here for a cat and a dog really wasn't what was on your agenda, but like, we haven't seen this dog get up off this bed in weeks. And he got up when you walked by. Like, would you, I know. They're like, would you like consider at least meeting him or saying hi to him? And then she was like, okay. So she met with him and it went really, really well because he is very aversive to dogs and people. So he's slow to warm up. He's a German Shepherd. So she didn't get him right away. And she was like, she's like, I'm gonna think about it, please. Yeah. He's way more, I came in for a cat. I don't know if I'm ready to leave with a project of a German Shepherd. Yeah. So she called one of her family members that night and they were like, what are you going to do if Duke isn't there when you go back? Like she finally decided, she's like, okay, I think I'm going to do this. Yeah. And it's funny. It's giving me goosebumps. And the family member was like, what are you going to do if Duke isn't there when you go back? And she goes, I'm going to cry. Like, I gotta, she's like, and so I went and I got my dog.
Yeah. I love that.
So, she was living in an apartment and it was the same thing. Anytime she would just walk out the door a little bit, he was screaming at everybody. And man. He had put in some like nips on some men that had come over. So like she had a really hard time dating anybody because anytime she'd bring a guy home, he was just up in arms about it. And in a smaller apartment, like it was quite a thing. So we did some crate training. He's really obsessed with these lamb chop stuffed toys. And so he has a different one.
You know, those are the most popular dog toys right now.
I didn't. That's crazy.
Yeah. We did. We read an article about it. Like, I don't know, just probably a few months ago on the podcast or whatnot. But yeah, people literally get them on subscription because their dogs love to tear them up so much and play with them and stuff. So they have them on subscription. And
now they come seasonal. You can get a Halloween witchy lamb chop. Yeah. You can get a Valentine. I'm
in the wrong business.
Yeah, right? So Zook has been the coolest. Like when his first initial program was over, he'd come really, really far, but it wasn't quite finished yet. Yeah. Which is why when I opened the facility, I started doing those alumni social events. Yeah. Because there's that continued maintenance. And for reactive and really anxious dogs, it's not just 6 weeks and then we're done or a board and train month and then we're done. Like
it's something you got to manage like for a long time.
So I always tell my clients, we're talking about like a year here. It will get very manageable, but there are routines and exercises we need to keep up with. No, it makes sense. And so it's so cool now because Duke comes to these events. We had one last Saturday and, you know, he comes in his muzzle and he's a big, scary shepherd. But he can do so many more things now than he ever could before. Yeah. And it's because like that owner is there every single Saturday. Yeah. We have an event. I made the whole schedule for the whole year so that Juliana could know exactly what days to check off work.
Yesterday, I was like,
that's for Duke.
We do 4 events a month. We do one every Saturday and then we're about to start rolling out some more too. But I was like, we should probably plan all of ours out in advance.
Well, then like the owners are like, I want to come, but I have work. You also keep
really small groups too, though, because you have like 5.
Like 10.
Oh, I thought it said 5 on the board, but maybe not.
No, that's trainers. That's like, gotcha. It's depending on the event. It depends on how many trainers that I need on staff. We normally cap ours at 10 too. Yeah, especially depending on where it's at. If we're hosting like a big holiday event, we'll let 15, 20 come out or something. But yeah, we normally cap it to around 10. That's a very manageable number. It was really cool. It's funny because
do you find that a lot of your clients come out to those? Like if they have the opportunity and stuff?
It's always the same kids though. Like I have,
because we have a pretty couple consistent groups like across like all 3 locations right now.
Yeah, I call them my regulars. They're there every Saturday. So I booked them all out for the rest of the year.
Those are the owners that I love. You know, they're the best. Yeah.
Those are the dogs that have come the furthest.
Yeah. But whenever you're selling it, it's like everybody gets excited about it and they talk about, I can't wait to go to those. And then it's like, you never showed up to one of them. You know?
I know. Yeah. And we'll very kindly and joke. I'm a very jokey person. So if there's a dog that I really love, I was like, if you don't come to alumni events and I don't get to see Apollo again, I'm going to come for you. Like I want to see my kid again.
I read the note too, the little thank you note on the board this morning. It's like, that's so sweet. Yeah. What a good one.
Mm-hmm. We have a little client appreciation section. And,
What are, do you have like a, well, I guess those are kind of your favorites because you just said those are your favorites. Do you have any like least favorites that have like been maybe not just because you don't like them, but just like where you're like, geez, this is gonna be tough. Like, or you got one and you're like, man, I've ended up eating this one in terms of.
There's one dog in particular, and if her owner hears this, we'll roll our eyes together. His name is Griswold, and he is a pit bull.
What a good name.
Yeah. Yep. His parents are really nerdy. One of the things, if you've done in-home lessons, you know that like when you go into someone's home,
you get to see their whole life.
You know them really quickly. So I know when I find my people, like I'll walk in and there are the books that I like to read, or I'm a nerd. So like Harry Potter and fantasy is, like
that's one of my favorite parts of like doing this, especially like how we've done our business like up until this point. Like we're about to start doing day trains like you, but we've done exclusively in-home up to this point, and we'll keep doing in-home stuff. But like, you get to meet so many people and you get to see so much stuff and like talk to so many people and stuff. Like, I had this one lady, you'd probably
have you gotten stuck in this maybe get,
go ahead.
This might get cut, but have you gotten to go into a hoarder house yet?
Yeah, I have
oh man.
Dude, we have an emergency safe word. Like if I text a word to our group text, somebody will call me within 30 seconds and be like, hey, your mom got in a car wreck. Yeah, no, that's happened to me. Yeah. No.
And it was so funny because I didn't see it. They
you know what our safe word is? It's Debbie. If you text, if you text anybody on my team the word Debbie, they're going to be like, anybody can text it too. It's like, it's a safe, like if, I don't know, because all of our trainers go to people's houses too. So if they're like uncomfortable or something weird happens or whatnot, they pull a Debbie. And it's only happened like 5 times in company history. And I'm like 4 of those because I've like go to a house and it's just disgusting or whatnot. And it's like, I want to help you, but like, I can't breathe in here. Like this is,
we couldn't train. Like it was literally like up to my chest and I like did the best with what I could, but it was weird because
I'm not doing it. Yeah. I'm just not doing it.
Yeah. Period. It was weird because I was like already there and they'd already paid and I was like, woof. But I would do evals in my home. I'd make them come to me because people were so flaky. I'm not coming to you anymore. You can come
people
to me.
Come to your house?
Yeah.
No.
I would sit them down right down on that couch.
I would never in my life. Yeah.
And they would see my board games. You saw that those 2 racks I had of those. So that was always a really good icebreaker. They would know right away. They're like, yes. Hello, I am home. And I was like, welcome. Yeah. This is a nerdy household.
Another one for me is like, and it depends on the house, but like if people like smoke cigarettes in their house and stuff, like I'll be like, I'll sign them up, but I feel real bad for the trader. I'm going to sign to it. I feel real bad. Yeah. That makes sense.
I got wild. My in-home days were wild. We're talking about Griswold. So Griswold was a pit bull. He's like 4 years old and he like to this day, we did a whole program. I even like had him come back for free. Yeah. Like, because I was not happy with the product that we had put out with him. I was like, he's not where I wanted him to be. And I know that I'd given you a lot of promises about where I wanted us to be. Real quick,
I want to touch on that because that I think is the sign of a really good trainer. Like if somebody spends thousands of dollars with you and like you guarantee, and like maybe not guarantee, but like you do something up front and like the dog is not where it is by the end or whatnot. There's sometimes I think exceptions where it's like, if the owner's not putting in that fair effort or whatnot, where it's like, I'm going to bill you more for this or whatnot. But like if y'all are both doing your part, I think that's the mark of a really good trainer is to be like, yes, like I want to, if you give me your money, I want to get you what you paid for, you know? And so, if you're listening to this and hiring a dog trainer, like make sure that they're willing to put their money where their mouth is, you know, and like, there's some sort of guarantee in place to say like, if we both do our part and the dog's not where we want it to be by the end, then we're going to keep working because
and your trainer can know. Like I always know when I have an owner that's putting in the work, and I know immediately.
The dog will tell you.
Yeah, I know immediately when I don't.
I had people be like, it's funny because our guarantee, because we do guarantee our work, and so our guarantee is hinged is like, and I always tell it's called a training guarantee. It's like, hey, if we're both doing our part train the dog and train you, your part is work with the dog 20 minutes a day. If you do that, I guarantee it'll work. If you don't, it won't work. And I always tell people like the asterisk, like the fine print here is if you are practicing 20 minutes a day with your dog. If you're not. And I've had people ask me before, like, what if I tell you I'm practicing and I'm not? And I'm like, you don't have to. Your dog will tell me. Like, if I train you and I train your dog, and it's me personally, especially, and I train your dog and I come back the next week and your dog is like not where it's supposed to be, I'm like, I know for a fact that you didn't do it because my part worked. You know, my part was just fine. Your part is the part that got messed up. Yeah. You don't
especially because we keep the dogs here too for the day. So like I know I have installed the training.
Oh, for sure.
And then I have taught you how to use it. But if you're not using it, it's super obvious. But Griswold wasn't really.
I think those owners too just know though. Like it's very rare that you get an owner that like BS's you and they don't do it, and then they're mad at you for like not getting them. It's very rare, and those people, it's like, well, kick rocks.
Yep. And some people, you know, the owners have just a lower standard than I would have with their dog, but they're happy as a clam. Yeah. Like so, if I can, if this is all you wanted to achieve, I wanted to go further, but you were happy with like. This is where we got. Then
good example that'd be like walking on the leash. It's like, I don't need my dog to like not get on the couch. I just want him to walk well on the leash or whatnot. And it's like, cool. Okay. Let's make sure he's like a perfect walker. Like you never have to deal with the problem again. Yeah. That's one thing I would say like we really tailor to is like we'll turn the dial like as much as you want. Like, do you want it to be like more strict and like a bunch of rules and manners and boundaries and stuff? Or do you want it to be like a little looser and like you just want him to like come when he's called and like walk on leash nice? Because if that's what you want, then like I'll do that. And I'll find that all out during the transformation process, but like transformation session process. But like tell me where you want the dial and I'll turn it. I'll do it.
We'll get there. I tend to, I don't know if you do this, but I overtrain it just a hair knowing full well that my owners are going to dial it. Like drop it down a little bit. That makes sense too. Cause like there's no telling what people do whenever you send them out. I would definitely say that for me, you said like the sign of a good trainer is a guarantee. I also think the sign of a really good trainer is someone that is willing to meet with you ahead of time, whether that's a free training lesson or a free eval or like a $50 valuation.
Yeah. If people try to sell you training over the phone, like I don't need a thank you video. I'll just straight up say it. I told them run. Like if somebody tries to tell you training over the phone without meeting you and without meeting your dog, me personally, I think that's a bit unethical. So
yeah, because there's so many times that an owner, I mean, you probably had this,
and you sell over the phone, start meeting people in person. Like you're going to sell more training too.
Yeah. And you have that huge disconnect because you don't know what's coming in the door.
And it's like, oh, I know I can do it or whatnot. It's like, okay, sure. Meet the dog though. Like meet the dog.
Yeah, it really puts a lot of owners' minds at ease too when they get to see how you handle and work your dog.
100%.
And they can see your training techniques and the results that it could get. Yeah. It makes the entire process so much smoother.
Me and you have the same mentor, but I literally just started doing I would always just go to people's houses and talk to them. I actually just started doing the training at the transformation session. Like we used to call them evals where I just go out and talk to you and sell you training. But like now we do the same eval process, but then like actually a little bit of training too. So they can see training works before they ever spend any money on it, and like, that's amazing. Like it makes so much sense. And like, it's also such a unique competitive advantage too. Cause like me and you, like we go the extra mile and it's like a lot of dog trainers aren't willing to do that. Like even if dog trainers listen to this, they're still not going to start selling over the phone. If you're used to that and that's your thing, then they're not going to change. So it's like, that really sets up a really unique competitive advantage for people that are willing to go the extra mile for people. Not only meet them in person and talk to them and sell them expensive training, but rather do that, but still train the dog that first day and like let them see it works,
I think a big point to make too with you and I is that we both have employees.
True.
And your company has been around a lot longer than mine. So I have a bunch of new employees.
Yeah.
And two of them are like absolute rock stars, but I get new apprentices all the time. And if I yes, I could sell over the phone and go meet any dog and train whatever you put in front of me, but I can't expect that out of my new trainers and my staff.
Yeah, 100%.
They don't have that kind of versatility and skill set that you and I do. Your staff that's older and if you've had people for years can probably do that. But for me, it's also a safety thing. Like I want to make sure that if I'm bringing a dog into the building and asking my trainers to work with it, I have vetted the dog to an extent, 100%. Or I've marked it with this is a Lindsay only dog.
Yeah. Well, that's why we always did, like whenever we were exclusively in home, that's why we always went to people's houses. Cause it's like, I want to go make sure that, I'm comfortable sending like one of my female employees to your house, whether it be part of town or the person or whatever it is. Like I want to make sure that I'm okay sending like male or female employees to this house, and making sure that it's like safe and not only that, but then the dog too, of course, but like gauging the person too, especially because we were doing, exclusively in-home stuff. Yeah. No, that makes sense. Yeah. Anyway, so that's like favorite, least favorite. Let's just throw in a random one here. Favorite breed ever.
Ooh, favorite breed ever.
3, 2, 1.
Pit bulls.
Okay, fair enough. Least favorite breed. 3, 2, 1.
Yorkies.
Why? We just said this morning.
I know. I'm gonna catch some hate, and it's fine. You could make I think maybe like a Chihuahua. I'm more of a bigger dog girly myself, but either one of those dogs. And I think it's maybe coming.
Have you ever met a sweet Chihuahua though? Like one where you're like, I would have this dog because I have.
Yes.
And they're amazing.
His name was Stumpy Joe.
Okay.
And I love that dog more than life itself.
That's very Chihuahua-esque of a name. Like, what the heck? That's so
I love
good.
that dog so much.
Yeah.
I used to do Rover, which is the dog sitting app.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I used to board dogs at my house as like supplemental income when I was starting out in the training world. And so Stumpy Joe came and boarded with me and I would groom him every once in a while. But I have a picture of him and Booberry laying together and he's just like curled up at her side and they're just both chewing on a bone. Yeah. And it's the cutest dang thing.
Yeah.
I think that is the only nice Chihuahua that has not like come for my soul.
Yeah.
When I walked into the house. I
always tell people it's like Chihuahua's either scared or aggressive. There's not really much of an in-between. But when you meet a sweet one, you're like...
I met one and only one.
I've met a few. There's one where I like literally told the lady, I was like, if you ever want to rehome this dog, let me know because I'll have it. I'll take it. And then she sent me the breeder's info. I'm like, I'm not ready to take that kind of leap.
Easy.
Yeah. Like, I'm not ready to take that kind of a leap yet. But I'm like, I love this dog so much. I just want to put her in my pocket. It's just like... Anyways, Yorkies are your least favorite. Yeah,
Yorkies and Chihuahuas probably down there. And I think part of it too...
Ask me mine.
Yeah. What's yours?
Malinois is favorite. Now, I don't know but I'm a little biased. I have one. Now, to be fair, I don't know.
I also have a pit bull.
Yeah. And so I don't know if I would, like, after Mia goes, which I don't like thinking about, but after Mia goes one day, I don't know if like with lifestyle changes currently, I wouldn't get one currently. Like another one, if she passed, I wouldn't be like, oh, let me go find a Malinois breeder. I'd wait till I have a farm, or something. And I've got more like land and a house, or at least just a house with a yard and stuff. Because being in an apartment, like
with a Mal,
that's a train wreck. Yeah. Mine's fun. She's fun. Like I said, she's 9 years old. She's a really good girl. She gets plenty of exercise and stimulation. And if the weather's appropriate, she's with me literally all day. She's like never home alone. Yeah. However, but yeah, I wouldn't do it again right now just because of lifestyle. But yeah, Malinois are probably my favorite, or just anything with pointed ears, shepherds, some Australian shepherds and collies and stuff that have pointed ears.
What's your least favorite breed?
Great Pyrenees.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. Now people always are surprised by that. And it's like, it's not like, it's the fact that the ones that I've met, and I've trained a bunch of them over the years, it's like, that's one dog where I feel like they really should just do what they were bred for.
Yeah,
which is
the guarding.
Guarding. Go lay in a herd of goats and make sure they don't get eaten by coyotes. Because all the ones I've ever met are like normally like lazy. They don't care about food. They don't care about corrections. And so like, it's just not super fun or engaging for the dog. Like, because you pull out like a Blueberry or a Mia and they're like, hell yeah, let's train. But then you pull out a Great Pyrenees and they're just like, But if you put them in a field of goats and they're watching over goats, and then a coyote comes, they will kill it. And that's like, and they love it. They get excited. It lights them up. But it's like, they should not be in your apartment,
Yeah.
And if you have one in an apartment, I'm sure it's fine. I'm just talking crap. But that's probably my least favorite. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. Every time I've trained a Great Pyrenees, I can think of 3 that I've worked with. One of them, the owner just ended up sending him back to a farm. Like I was like, it has to go back to a farm and not an apartment house living. Like it just, the guarding and you could just like walk in the room and trigger, its instincts, which is like it's a herding dog and a protection. Like that's what it was for. So
livestock,
you fight if you have a dog that has a behavior that is part of what they were instinctually bred to do and what they're natural for,
genetically bred to do.
You're fighting that so much sometimes.
I have a healer and it bites ankles. I want it to stop. Yeah, kick rocks. It's
I always have a curious with like the Yorkie Chihuahua thing. I'm always curious if it's that like I don't really like Yorkie owners and Chihuahua owners because of like how much they let their dogs get away with. Like if I took a Yorkie and raised it from start to finish and raised it with like clear rules and boundaries, would I like the breed more?
Yeah.
Or like the people that want Yorkies want like cute little hold it purse dogs, because they're adorable and they're small and they're precious. And then we treat them like they're adorable and small and precious. And then they get away with murder. Like if I let my dogs do the same things that we let Chihuahuas and Yorkies do, like people would be coming for my dogs. But
yeah.
I don't know.
There is definitely a standard with like little dogs. I don't think that people realize like if somebody has a little dog, I think the reason that you see less little dogs in training is because even if they do bad stuff, it's not as severe. Like a 10-pound dog or 15-pound dog pulling is not going to be the same as a Blueberry pulling on a leash. Yeah. It's a different thing, And so it's like another one. This is a personal opinion, but I meet
hit me with it.
Pugs and Frenchies and stuff, and like I love the ones that we get to train. But for the amount of them that are out there, the lack of the amount of like number of them that we actually do train is staggering to me. Because like Frenchies, I don't know if you knew this, but it's either 2021 or 2023, they took over as America's most popular dog. The French
I could see that.
Yeah, it was either in 21 or 23, can't remember. But and we maybe get one a month or one every other month or something like that. But the volume of them that's out there versus the amount of them that we get to train is very different. And the reason I think that is because I think people, 1, expect them to be naughty, and 2, I think they think it's funny. And it's like, if you're okay with that, then it's like, it's your dog, your life, your house. Like, I don't care. But if you want them to be good, call me.
Nice. I like it.
Pugs too. That's another one.
Yeah.
I've met some really bad pugs over the years that we've gotten to train, and they're fun to train, and they're not terrible. They're kind of dumb, but cute dumb.
I don't think a pug has ever tried to take a finger off for me.
Yeah, I've never met a mean pug. I have trained a reactive pug that was all black.
Oh yeah, I've trained some ornery pugs.
Yeah.
But I haven't seen a lot of crazy aggression out of pugs recently. So you brought up a funny point about like what you let little dogs get away with, which you wouldn't let our dogs get away with, is that I did an eval for a Chihuahua that had never worn a leash. And they're like, we need training because like anytime they try to leash it, grab it, move it, or anything, it's just attacking them like crazy. So they just put gloves on and then just let it kill their fingers. And I was like, Okay. So I came in and did the eval. I sat up front and was like, hey, listen,
you
this
put
is
your big snake bite gloves on.
Yeah, you saw my teal, because always be branding.
Yeah, ABB, always be branding. Yeah.
Got him in teal. So I went out and I did this eval, and we put the leash on the dog, and then it did the alligator rolls, and it lost its mind.
Yeah.
And then I've got big hiking boots on, and so we went out and started walking, and like it just grabbed my shoe and shook like a rag doll.
Yeah.
Like it was going to murder me.
Oh, wow.
And I watched it lash on my shoe and go, rah, 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 and I was like, okay, like,
you so cute.
Well, all right, buddy. I mean, I don't know what you think you're going to do with that, but that's fine.
I walked into a house one time and it was 2 Australian Shepherds, and I'm there for one and the other one's really old, and I'm like petting on them and like loving on them and stuff. And then the old one just like actually bites my foot, and it's like actually biting me. And I'm like, it's biting me. It's biting me.
My gosh.
Like actually though, I was like, I was wearing leather shoes. It actually popped a hole in it.
Wow. Yeah, this Chihuahua didn't do anything. He didn't have any teeth left to do a lot of damage. But like, the difference between that dog, like, and he just, like, if he had his way and was a little bigger, like, he would have happily sent me to the hospital if given the opportunity.
Yeah. Do you know how many dog trainers are in Columbus?
There's a lot.
Ballpark.
I could
ballpark that are like actual dog trainers, like have a business and a license.
Reputable,
like have a business and a business license at a minimum, like ballpark.
Yeah, I would say I could easily name 10 good dog trainers.
Okay.
That like when they say they are considering a program,
like 10 or 15 more that you couldn't name.
Oh, that are like they're like, oh, I trained with Sarah, and I was like, okay, what's her company name? And they're like, Sarah, and I was like,
cool, got it.
Great, okay, I can't, I can't help
So let's call it
that.
like 2025 though, total, like, and like 10 that are like actual like competitors.
Yep.
If I was in Columbus, why would I come here and not one of them? Like, what makes you guys like unique?
Ooh, fun question. I think there's a couple things that stands out. The first and biggest one is the lifetime aspects of our product. So we do the lifetime support, so you can call us, you can text us. We do the alumni social events for free twice a month.
Also lifetime.
Lifetime, yep, and they're free. So we'll take you to restaurant bars, patios, we'll go to stores with you. We do different events here at the facility, like pictures with Santa. I think that was one of my crowning achievements this past Christmas, was that we had 10 or 15 dogs that came into the facility, and I dressed my husband up in a Santa costume.
How much did he like it?
He was surprised. You know, he has a slight curmudgeon attitude about it, but like he was so down. And if I had asked anybody else to do it, like he was like, no. Yeah. I want to be Santa. Yeah. And I was like, respect.
One time I conned my pops into coming to a Santa event and having him dress up as Santa.
Nice.
And me and my mom still will like cry laughing about it, but he's in the back of the Sequoia putting on the Santa costume and he's just cussing. He's like, God, and just cussing, putting all the pants and like stuffing a pillow in his shirt and stuff.
It's amazing.
And he hated it. I think he had fun once he actually did it. And like my dad.
I would have paid good money to see that.
My dad is not like we have always had dogs growing up, but like he doesn't have like dog sense, if you know what I'm saying. So like,
oh yeah, no, none.
He's in the fake beard stuff, and he's like, "Come here, puppy, come here." And like the dogs are like, "What? What?" And like backing up, like all scared of him and stuff. And he's like trying to like get the dog to come next to him, and he's like, doing all the wrong things, like reaching for him and like putting his hand out towards him and stuff like that. And they're like backing up, like all scared and stuff. And it's just funny because he had like no dog sense. But then too, like him getting dressed up, and he's just in the back. And my mom has a video of it. They're just like cussing and just like angry. And then
kudos to your mom for getting that on tape.
Yeah, one time I was saying that, and that wasn't so bad. It's just like, but he also took it really seriously too, because he's like, what if like a kid sits in my lap and he's like, I want this for Christmas. He's like, how do you like? I'm not the real one, like. He was like,
your dad's on the hook
he
now.
He was worried that he was gonna like traumatize a kid by like being like, Santa's not real, or Santa
no, your dad's
Santa
actually on the hook.
If there's a kid listening, Santa is real, but.
For sure.
Yeah,
Santa is absolutely real.
100%.
I think that legally that your dad is now on the hook to get that little girl a unicorn. So I'm pretty sure that's
how
it.
Works.
But he was that event when Ryan was Santa. I coached him a little bit, and he actually has a very good. I think he's been around me enough that he has a very like the way you approach where like, hi, we don't touch the dog, and we keep our hands to ourselves, and we mind our manners.
I imagine if I was him like married to a dog trainer, I'd probably pick up some dog sense too. Yeah.
But he was Santa, and we had 15 dogs that got up and took their pictures with Santa, all reactive dogs, all dogs that have had aggression with men, everything like that. Every single dog got
when
up there.
You said get up. Was there a biter right here next to his face?
Yeah. Well, yeah. We had one of those little tables, those short little tables that we put a blanket on, and he sat on it, and then we hopped the dogs up next to him on the little pedestal.
Did you have any that were like, yeah, why is Santa walking next to me?
No, everybody got up.
Really?
It was great. That's what was so beautiful to me, was that all 15 of these reactive, male aggressive, killing people and other dogs, we didn't have any bites.
It's cool to see it work.
No lunging. Like every dog got up there. They took their picture. We had to get a little creative with the treats and the balls in the background to get the eyes on the camera. But Peyton got up right next to him. Duke got right up next to him.
What about Charlie?
Oh, Charlie loves everybody, actually. Charlie's a really sweet dog.
He was here yesterday, wasn't he?
Yeah. You met Charlie. Yeah, she was really great. She was actually, I met the owner at the daycare that I used to work at.
Oh, nice.
And she had 2 small dogs. She had a dachshund and a Bichon then when I knew her. And then those dogs had since passed away. And then she'd gotten Charlie. But Charlie's a much bigger dog. And she was like, oh, I am out of my depth with this new dog.
Especially with a smart doodle.
Yeah. And they had done the new trainers approach with the walking and stuff. And she was just still really struggling. Yeah. And she had Googled and found us. She didn't realize that I was running this company now. And she came in for the evaluation. And the whole time for the first 5 minutes, I was like, do I know you? Yeah. And she was like, yeah. I was like, Marta Johnson. That's that name is ringing bells. And then she goes, yeah, you used to work down there. I was like, I did. Absolutely. And she was like, you knew me because of Rudy and Benny, my old dogs. I was like, yep.
There it is. Yeah. When
that is what I knew you from.
Yeah. The other day I was working security at church and these 2 people walked by me and they're like looking at me and I'm like, and they're waving at me and I'm like, I know you, but I don't know how I know you. It's very awkward, very weird for me. And they're like, we're Honey's parents. And I was like, oh, there it is. Yep. Got it.
If you could just preferably introduce me by your dog's name from here on out, that would actually save me a lot of time.
Which is crazy too. Cause I'm standing at the door and I'm just standing there and a guy comes out of the service and he sits down and we just start chatting it up or whatnot. And then he starts telling me and he's like, asking me what I do for work and all this. And anyways, turns out he was one of my first 2018 clients.
Oh.
Yeah. And I was like, which is when I started my business. He was like one of my first clients ever. And I was like, and I looked up his wife's name. I'm like, yep, here are all your notes. You had this dog and these problems and all this stuff or whatnot. You paid me this. And he was like, yep, that's it. And then, I don't know, he ended up rehoming both dogs apparently. But whatever, his thing, not mine. Going back to where we started, this little tangent that we went on. I know. What makes you guys special? Why would we pick you guys?
Our program is a lifetime one. So it's an investment up front, but the call, the tech support, the events that you get to go to for
plus
free.
Plus all the actual training.
And all the actual good training is huge. I think that we have a very community-based feel to all of us. So we have a small, tight-knit training team that work really closely together. And so when you join us, I have that small town raising about me. So when you come here, you're part of the family now. You're in here with us and part of all of it.
Yeah, part of the crew.
Those are 2 of the big things. I also think our program is very unique because your 2 traditional types of training are a board and train and private lessons. And not to knock on anybody's different styles. And
let's say you better watch it.
Everybody look out. So common things, and there are a lot of great ways that you could work around this with a different program, but a private lesson, the way that I pitch it is that private lessons have loads of education for the owners. Mm-hmm. You get one-on-one time for an hour
dog, you train in your home. It's in your home where the distractions are.
Absolutely. Yep. So loads of human education. I find that sometimes it can be lacking on the dog education side because the trainer might work with your dog for half of the lesson, 20, 30 minutes, but they're putting a lot of the responsibility on you to be like, okay, this is the technique. Now I need you to do almost all of the work.
Yeah.
So that can, and if some people, that's what they want. They want to be in the trenches and doing the nitty gritty, and that's awesome.
Yeah.
But it doesn't work great with busy families with lots of kids and lots of events and you're running around all day.
Or really hard dogs, reactive
or
tough
dogs,
aggressive dogs, things like that. Because sometimes you just need time. And then sometimes it's just this is not training that necessarily the owner's gonna want to be a part of or see, especially with you've got a really hard dog or something. Yeah.
Yep.
No, that makes total sense. Yep.
So you've got your flip side of that, which is a traditional board and train where you send your dog off and they keep it. Loads of training for the dog, real in depth.
For the human.
Yeah, they had in depth for the dog. Yeah. Lacking for the human. So they're kind of the yin yang.
We can both talk bad about that because I don't do that either. So
yeah, I don't do barn train. We're gonna harp on them all day.
I was about to say I could be a complete what is it crusader for in home though, because like I said, I've exclusively built my business off that. But I'm here because we're about to do. Because we're about to do what you're about to talk about, which is how you do it. So
so that's how I started too. I was doing what you're doing now. Is I would go to people's homes, do one-on-one training, and I was a one-woman show when I started this. It was me and nobody else. Yeah. And now I've got a team of 4 trainers.
Yeah.
I have 2 people that run my phones and contact clients.
Yeah.
And then I've got 2 virtual assistants that do the business end of everything.
Yeah.
So we've become quite the team.
Yeah.
But the board and trains are, there's a lot of times the biggest complaint is that there's a big disconnect between what the dog can do with the trainer and when you first pick it up and at the facility, and then you take it home and it kind of feels like it all falls apart.
Because it's like drinking from a fire hose. Your dog goes through, let's call it like your standard like 2-week board and train, which is like what most of the industry sells or whatnot. And they can be a little shorter and, you know, lesser. They can be longer depending on the dog or whatnot. But the standard industry standard is about a 2-week board and train, right? And it's like, you send your dog there, then you get like a 1 or 2 hour go home, maybe one a couple weeks later or whatnot. And it's like drinking out of a fire hose. You're like, Jesus Christ, this is so much stuff. They throw the
entire program at you in an hour.
Here's your remote collar. Here's how it works. Here's your prong collar. Here's how it works. Here's a slip lead. This is what you do for this. This is what you do for that. This is how you place. This is how you come. This is how you walk. This is all. And it's like,
you got it. You good? Bye.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
See ya. So that's, if I have new clients.
We should say though, it wouldn't be around if it didn't work to some degree.
Yeah, absolutely.
We're not just completely hating.
I'll give board and trains one of the big benefits. I think that they do really well with separation anxiety.
Yeah, because you said earlier,
because you take the dog out of the home.
Yep.
You rework all the crate work, and like when your dog goes to a board and train, they're sleeping in their kennel or their cot, or like they're not in bed with you.
Yeah.
And for a separation anxiety dog, that's everything.
Yeah, you got to get over it.
Yep. And owners have a hard time listening to their dogs scream all night long. And I'll put my dogs up at a kennel or a facility, and I'm going to just go to bed and they can 100%. Work on themselves.
Yeah.
So
those are, the middle. What's the middle ground? What's the middle?
The perfect, that's so great. So the perfect blend between the two, in my opinion, is a day train.
Yeah.
I did board and trains in my home, and it drove me crazy.
Yeah. You're working all the time. You never have time off.
Yeah. And I just never felt like the owners could figure it out all that well. And I wanted to give them a better education. So I was doing a lot of private lessons. And then I was like, all right, so this is silly. And this is like, why do I have to pick one or the other? Why can't I have both? So I put both of them together into a day train model, which has kind of the best of both worlds. We're going to Hannah Montana that.
Right.
So they dropped the dog off like going to school from 7 to 9 in the morning. Mm-hmm. I get to keep the dog all day long. So for private lessons, I get way more time with the dog. I can work through a lot of the reactivity and aggression behaviors. I can try out
anxiety like you were talking about.
Yep. I can try out a lot of different tools and techniques. So I make sure that I've got the right piece of equipment for the dog, and I'm not like trial and erroring it like in front of the client. I've already worked through all of that. And I install the training with the dog so that when the owner comes in the evening and picks up, we do a one-on-one session with a trainer, just like a private lesson. But I'm not trying to like get the dog to learn the material and then give it to the owner and get them trying to pick it up as well. Because that's what I would do in my private lessons is I'd be like, all right, this is what I'm going to do. And I'd talk while I did it.
Right.
But they're watching me in real time, work the dog through what's going on.
Yeah.
So then when you come on, pick up, the dog already knows what they're doing. And the go home lesson is just for the owner to learn what's going on and how to work on it themselves. Yeah. So the other benefit, like over a board and train, is that I'm only doing one topic every week. Right. So I'm doing a let's go introduction to equipment and a walking drill. Then we're doing place week 2. Then we're doing heel. Then we're doing come.
Yeah.
And so my owners have 1 week to work one topic at a time, and they're not getting overwhelmed
with so much stuff.
With every obedience command that you're trying to throw at them.
Yeah. Do you find that, okay, so like, let's say, I don't even care where I'm at in the program. Let's say I'm in like between like weeks 1 and 3 though, with like my dog, like I bring him to you. Do you find that since like the dog's been here all day, it's been like, it's not literally been training all day because it's got tether time, it's got downtime in the crate and stuff like that. Do you find that by the time the owner actually gets hands on though, that it's like the dog it's like too easy because the dog's like already been tired and trained all day. And then like the next day when the dog wakes up, it's hard for the owner to do their homework because they didn't actually do the hard reps because you already did all the hard reps for him. Do you find that?
What I find most is that you're right in that we will do like, we wake up and the dogs drop off and we go right into an obstacle course run through our proprioceptor course. Then we do a
what?
Proprioceptor course.
Repeat that. Proprioceptor. Obstacle course.
We call it an obstacle course, but if you want to go full training term.
Okay.
It's a term
Never heard that word.
I learned it. I went to the canine kinesthetics course with Marina. I hope I say it. Orzuno, I think is how you say the last name.
Let's just say you got it right.
Let's say it. Marino. So I went to Marino.
Mad respect for Marino. Yeah.
Marina Orzuno has it's like dog kinesthetics. So remember when I was doing that body work with Frankie where I was like moving her legs and touching everything? She does that, and she has something called a proprioceptor course where you teach a dog to like, you go really slow. So you don't run it like agility. You run it really slow and you do one step at a time.
And just get them used to it.
Very used to, because so many dogs won't walk on metal and wood and plastic and things that crinkle and make noises. So that's what our obstacle course is every morning.
You need to get like a raised grate or something like that.
Yeah. I actually have the, the metal dividers and crates for puppies?
Yeah.
That you start it small and then make it bigger?
Yeah.
I have 4 of those chained together.
Oh, nice.
And when you walk on them, they clang.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
I didn't pay enough attention when I was in your
you sleepyhead. You missed
your proprioceptor room. I didn't pay enough attention yesterday.
Yeah. Well, you missed it this morning because you were sleeping in. So
that is true. Yeah, I needed to. Real quick, let's do this. Let's take a quick break and we'll be right back.
Perfect. I love it.
Okay. Anyways, before the break, we were talking about proprioceptor course. Yeah. And I think where we started that was, why should we pick you guys? And that's where the question kind of started. And you were talking about some of the stuff that y'all actually do with the dogs.
Yeah. So you had asked if like them coming here and doing all this work made it easy.
Oh, right.
And then
yes.
and then they had a hard
too easy
time
at the lesson and then hard for the owner at home because they haven't done the dog wakes up the next day full bars at 100% energy and it's like, whoa, let's do it,
There, you can definitely have those moments. And I would say some of the ways that we really help work our dogs through that, I think that you have to have those big breakdown moments where you really like tucker them out and then get them in a good learning headspace by
kind of run the rank out of them a little bit.
Yeah, you got to kind of run the crazy. Some dogs really like need the crazy run out and then they can finally like take in new information.
Yeah.
So that's really helpful for a lot of dogs. And a lot of the techniques that we use here, I'm actually teaching the owners to do the same thing.
Right.
So tether training, for example, a lot of our techniques we use here, we expect owners to do the same and we teach them how to do that. So a good crate routine, some tether training exercises, some behavioral downs or relaxation downs, that kind of stuff. So I get the ball rolling and then implement a lot of the techniques. A lot of what we do here can be replicated at home.
Right.
Which makes a big difference.
That does make sense. Yeah. So they're basically, I just didn't know if, like I said, it was tough for the owners on like, okay, training day's over. Now it's back to real life where it's like they're walking their dog, and it's like, I don't know, like it was so easy. The dog didn't pull on me at all last night at our lesson, with Lindsay, but now it's pulling or something. I just didn't know if that ever happens.
Not often. I think a lot of people, especially because our first lesson is Let's Go, which is an introduction to walking, e-collars for most dogs and walking drills that makes a huge difference. Like one of the things we hear a lot is that I saw results the first day.
Yeah.
And
funny enough, that's actually one of our guarantees.
Yep.
Which you should make it a guarantee too.
Nice.
I call it I'm pitching people. I'm like, hey, we have the first lesson guarantee. You'll see a difference with your dog after the first day. Some dogs it's night and day. Some dogs it's just a little bit, but I guarantee you will see a difference with your dog the first day, and life will be easier from day one moving forward.
Yeah.
Yeah. People love that.
Smart.
Eat that up. Eat it up. Because you're already getting results the first day. Just tell them.
Yeah. I love it. We do. And that was when we came into the facility, I was excited, but appropriately apprehensive about like my ability to train new trainers and still being able to teach them to get the same results that I can get with a dog. And honestly, some of my trainers are like very quickly becoming just as good of a trainer as I am, if not better. So, and they've got, I've got 2 really awesome trainers on my team that just like they shine like stars.
Yeah,
so
that's awesome.
It really makes me happy when clients are like, I loved working with, Caitlin. She was amazing.
Yeah.
And she was so great. That's, I think, one of the biggest signs of a really good leader or mentor is that people think that you're so amazing and really like everything that they know they've learned from you, but that's your moment to be like, you're right. Like, you're right. Caitlin is the best trainer on staff. 100%.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool. Yeah. When I went to dog training school at the end, I got a, certificate saying that I was like master dog trainer. That was like my title that I got whenever I graduated training. Yeah. And when I first got out of school, I used the title a lot or whatnot. But over the years, I've kind of come to the conclusion that like what makes a real master dog trainer is being able to train other people to train dogs. Yeah. And they don't need me watching them to do it, and I know that they're going to get the person great results and they're going to have, do a great job, and I think that's like the real mark of a master trainer is not only can I train your dog and not only can I train a client and a client's dog, but I can then train another person to train dogs. And it gets even crazier whenever that person then starts going to train other people to train people how to train dogs. And you're like, this is like a good pyramid scheme at the, it's like, I'm training you, you're training somebody else, and it's really cool. It really is cool. Yeah. And it, cause it's cool being here too, like watching you and like some of the stuff that's going on here. It's like, I see myself like, where I was like my second year in business, like cause like I hired my first employee my first year in business, like in October. So I was 10 months in and I hired my first employee and that person already had some experience, which taught me I don't like people with experience. And then
preach.
And then, the next year I hired more people and was training people and stuff like that. And so, but yeah. And so it's just really cool seeing that. Cause it's, kind of like going back to like 2019 almost for me, where I'm like, hey, I was here in this exact same spot, with employees, deal with the exact same, kind of, good stuff that's going right. And like problems too. And like, and then working out all the kinks in between and stuff, know? So, it's really cool.
This is a fun question for you. Would you say that you're ever done and you have ever mastered dog training?
No, but you can, no, not at all. Like I just, and I've talked about this on the show, but I mean, I just did Nipopo Gold, last September or whatnot, and like, that's a whole new world of dog training, and I knew some of it and knew some of the concepts and stuff, but like it's a whole new world, and it's like, have I run into anything with a pet dog that I can't fix in a long time? No, that like, am I perfect though? No, not at all. I still make mistakes. There's still stuff to learn. I'm still getting stuff like, and putting new stuff in my toolbox and stuff like that, which is a, concept I was talking to your trainers about this morning, is like, everybody's got something to teach you, Yeah. So I don't think that you can ever master it. I think you can get close to that line though. And like I said, if you're hiring me for your pet dog, like there's not a lot of stuff I think I'd really need to learn at this point on how to train a person's dog inside their home, But if I was going to go with a hunting dog trainer, I'd be green. I would sit and shut up and listen and watch and do exactly what they told me to do, because I don't know anything about training hunting dogs. I mean, I used to do that when I was a kid, like, and watch trainers do that when I was a kid, but I don't know anything about that, Or like if I got back into like bite training and stuff like that, I'd mentor under a trainer and I would sit there and shut up and listen, and just listen to what they have to tell me and learn from them. So yeah, you could take it infinite areas or whatnot.
Yeah, I think that I'll probably be like a student for life.
It?
Oh God, no. Oh, not yet. Yeah. I have learned a lot and I've taken a lot of information in. I think that I also have a huge benefit of starting in the exotic world.
Oh yeah.
Which I don't think a lot of trainers have seen. Because what's cool and interesting about that is that when you work with clients and their dogs, you don't get to control a lot of stuff about what's going on with the dog. Yeah. Like if I could take the dog away and put it into my very controlled world, my very controlled environment, I could get a way better result. But the thing about the exotic worlds is,
train?
Yeah.
just joking. Yeah. We're just joshing with you.
Listen,
anyways, exotic
we get a joke because we've done it. All right. I feel like if you have tried it and done it, you get a joke about it.
Yeah.
But in the exotic worlds, you control everything. You control the environment, you control the distractions, you control the food, you control like what animals they're interacting with.
Yeah.
When you take a dog out on a walk, it is the Wild West out there. You have no idea what you're going to run into on a walk.
Never thought about it like that, but yeah, great point. Yeah. Well, I think that's why in like Nipopo, where I did my Nipopo, at least they train dogs like on tables that have like, it's like a table. It's, two, probably more than 2. I'm not great with distance, but like 2 or 3 feet wide. And then there's walls on it. They're like 3 or 4 feet high too. And then on the top, there's a bar and there's a, a chain that the dog's collar hooks up to or whatnot. And they can run the whole table, but they actually call it, I don't know if it's a Nipopo thing or if it's just the guy that I worked with, but he called it the aquarium, because it's like when the dog's in the aquarium, it can only focus on what you allow it to see. It's not like we're just like out and about, like in a big room and training. It's like you're right here dialed in on this one thing, and if you don't want to work, then you can go out for a little bit and come back to the aquarium a little later whenever you're ready to do something, but that's a really good point. Yeah. I never thought about that. It's like, you never know what it's like a box of chocolates.
Yeah. And you have like a whole team of trainers that's whole job is just to work with this set of 5 or 6 animals. And you have like some of the most highly trained and dedicated trainers in the world. You got a team of 4, 5, 6 trainers and 3, 4 animals. And it's,
I was trying to tee up a Forrest Gump joke for you, but
I missed it.
You totally missed it.
One of the things that my trainers make fun of me for is that I'm a little bit older than most of them. So I've got like a bunch of old references that they don't, but I'll drop a Little Shop of Horrors joke sometimes. And I'll drop a Whose Line Is It Anyway joke in there to see like who can pick them up.
Yeah. See, like both of those went over my head.
They're like, well, should I use hand signals or verbal commands? I was like, like the points, the points are made up and don't matter, or whatever who's line.
No.
The score's made up and the points don't matter. So
right over my head.
When I use that joke sometimes, and trainers are like, well, should I do this or should I do this? I was like, like for commands, one of my new pet projects is I really want to train my next dog with Harry Potter commands.
That'd be cool.
Just for funsies.
Yeah.
Because you'll find this with trainers is that eventually they kind of get a little bored and then they just start doing like crazy kooky things just because they can.
Oh yeah.
And they're like, well, what verbal command's the right command? I was like, score's made up and the points don't matter, dude. You could use whatever. You could say it in German. You could say it in English. I've trained a dog in Greek, by the way.
I trained a dog in Icelandic.
Ooh, that might be better.
I trained a dog one time named Appa, and his password was Yip Yip.
I've trained an Appa too.
Yeah.
What breed of dog was your Appa?
I can't remember.
Oh, mine was a Bernese Mountain
This
dog.
one was but his password was Yip Yip, which is how they got Ava to fly in Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Of course I know this.
Then, yeah, of course. And then one time I trained a German Shepherd who the guy was very inspired by I Am Legend with Will Smith and bought it. And so her password was tss, which is what he does to like let his dog go, run up and stuff. So I thought that was cool. That was the worst part of about that movie is him having to kill the dog. So
let's not talk. We don't talk about I Am Legend.
Yeah, they should have made like an alternative ending where the dog like lives and he's,
in my mind it does, and we're just not going to talk about it.
Yeah.
It's like a cardinal sin.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I guess, I guess let me ask you this, a couple more things that, I thought was really interesting to you specifically, was you're big into tethering dogs. You want to talk about that?
I love to talk about tethering dogs. It's actually there's like two major techniques about it. There's Sit on the Dog by Margot Woods. And then
let's clarify that. Because when you said sit on the dog
you
earlier,
almost died.
I was like, Jesus Christ, Lindsay, let's not get you canceled for like sitting on dogs. I'm like, I'm a big guy. I couldn't sit on a dog. And
he was like, Lindsay, in what world would I get down to that chihuahua on the ground? There's no way.
Yeah.
So sit on the dog, and then Training Between the Ears has a Stephanie Mark McCabe have a similar technique called a behavioral down. My clients find that word a little weird, so we just call them relaxation downs. But they're relaxation techniques.
Yeah. Real quick, clarifying, sitting on the dog, you're like the leash is on the dog and you're sitting on it.
Yeah.
You didn't actually clarify when we joked about clarifying.
I know.
So you're sitting on the leash, and then the second method is what you're about to talk about.
Yeah. So sit on the dog. You're not actually sitting on any dogs.
Yeah.
You're going to take your leash and you would just put it under your thigh, in a chair, and you give the dog enough leash to lay down comfortably, but not get too far away. So usually I say you choke up about half of a leash. So if you've got a 5 or 6 foot leash.
I've been doing that for years, and I didn't actually know that was called a thing. Like whenever I'm working with like a dog that's like nervous barking at me and stuff like that, I think the technical term for it is flooding, which is what we did that a little bit yesterday with dogs, like making them get comfortable with what they're scared of or whatnot.
Yeah.
But I'll give the dog pretty much like, I just need enough leash to tie it to my leg, but I'll tie it in a knot around my leg, and I'll just like make it sit next to me, and I'll be, nice, give it snacks and stuff, and then pay it and everything for calming down and settling down and stuff. But I didn't know that was actually called that.
Yeah.
So
sit on the dog. So sit on the dog. I
thought I made it
the
up,
way that I view it, this is my take on it, is that with sit on the dog, you put the leash under your leg in a chair and you sit there. Both techniques, you completely ignore the dog. So don't look at them, don't touch them, don't talk to them, don't pet them, don't treat them.
Yeah.
You just leave them be. Especially for our anxious kiddos, this is like a game-changing technique.
Yeah.
So you leave the dog over there. They have to work their stuff out.
Yeah.
I can't do the comforting and the calming and the soothing for a dog. So many people see their dog in distress and want to go running to it immediately to be like, I'm sorry, I'll make you feel better.
Yeah.
But
which does what?
Nothing, and it makes it worse.
Yeah, it actually does make it worse. Yeah, because you're adding a positive for a negative behavior.
Yeah, you're engaging and providing that soothing technique when your dog is exhibiting a behavior that you're trying to fix.
Yeah.
So, unfortunately, if I could get in the head of a dog and just fix all of their, separation anxiety, mental illnesses, I would be a bazillionaire. Yeah. But I can't do the work for the dog. You're going to have to let them. That's the hardest part, is letting it sit there and letting it be upset and work through it.
Yeah.
So it's a similar technique. I don't know if this is still kosher or not, but you feed your baby, you give it food, you give it water, you change its diaper, you put it to bed. And then sometimes it has everything it needs and it just needs to cry it out a little bit.
It's like sleep training.
Yeah. So sometimes I know it has everything it needs. Yeah. It's perfectly safe, and I'm just going to leave it there.
You sleep train a baby, you let them cry it out a little bit.
I let dogs cry it out a lot. Yeah. So, the sit on the dog technique, you put your leash under and it's just time based.
Yeah.
You wait 40 minutes, you wait an hour, whatever it is.
Yeah. We did an eval yesterday with somebody and the dog laid down after literally 40 minutes.
Yeah. It took a minute for sure. But yeah. And like they'll fully pass out. And it was a greyhound too that doesn't do like an intermediate sit. It's like a stand or a down and that's all that dog does. So I call that kind of like the step 0. So if my dog is really struggling with a behavioral down, I'll start with a sit on the dog where you just put the leash on, you run it for 20 minutes, however much time you have. You get as deep into relaxation as you get, and then you're done.
Yeah.
The behavioral down by training between the ears is a little bit more complex in terms of markers and things that you're looking for. So their technique is different. Instead of under your lap, it goes under your foot.
Okay.
Same thing. Give your dog enough leash length to
lay down,
and relax. Totally ignore them. It has some benchmarks behavior-wise that you're looking for. Right. So in order to be in what they call target behavior, which is like I can tell my dog's headspace is in a calm area because their body is giving me checkpoints that point that out. So your dog needs to go from nose to tail touching the ground. So they need to be in contact with the floor. You need to have a nice rolled, relaxed hip. So you know how you kick your hips off to the side. Also, I like to point out that the more tucked up tight the legs are, the more springy into action your dog is. But when they really extend and slide out, they're much more settled.
Yeah.
We also want to check their eyes and their ears. So you don't want a dog that is like twitching and tracking every little noise and like
you just want their ears in their natural relaxed position.
Yeah. Relax back, that sleepy, droopy eye thing they do when they're fighting, going to sleep.
Yeah.
And then the final piece for me is no barking, no whining.
Right.
So you put your foot on the leash, you totally ignore the dog. There is no time limit to this one. It takes however long it takes to reach target behavior twice.
Yeah.
So your dog lays down, they fully settle and relax, and you check off all
What's
4
your
of those
longest
boxes.
time that's taken?
The longest one I've had a client do was 4 hours.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. And then she's like, Lindsay, I gave up. I was like, touche. So we had to rework it. The dog
you can also
didn't know how to lay down.
There. You could also in terms of just training, you could help the dog get there too, and start teaching a down and then a little bit of a pressure to get them to down, things like that.
That is actually what we ended up doing for that dog.
Because then once it's there, then it's like, all right, well, I'm here, might as well settle.
Yeah. Right? Yeah. So we actually went back and we did pressure downs where we guided down with the leash and made we put them. I call them force downs where I'm like, you are going to lay down now, and I'll guide you down with my leash, and then if you get up, I will guide you back down again until you accept and settle. Yeah. So. We did a couple of those types of sessions. Then we revisited the behavioral down and we made the criteria a little easier. Yeah. So it's a lot
rather than tail and nose.
Yeah. Well,
just I always tell
more about distractions though. So she tried to do it with a little bit too much going on in the house. Yeah. So, you can do it later at night when your dog is more prone to settling and relaxing. Gotcha. You can sometimes you can give the dog an item to lay on like a blanket or a bed. I want my dogs to be able to relax on any surface.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But if they're struggling with this exercise, you can start off with something softer and more
that makes sense.
Comfortable.
Yeah.
I'm also happy to give your listeners the link to some articles and videos on this if they ever want to try this out. I firmly believe that if you are not doing some relaxation tethering exercises with your dog, you're doing them a massive disservice.
Yeah.
So
I think you actually told me yesterday on the phone, you said, if you're not doing tethering with your dog, you're doing it wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think it's a huge pivotal moment. And I've had so many people one of the things I do in my evals, even if you never sign up for my training program, I send you home with that article and videos of me doing the exercise because every dog will get better
as a result of that.
It won't fix everything, but you could, if you can't afford my training, you can at least start doing this with your dog.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So they cycle, they relax.
Do most people get it whenever you're explaining it to them, why they do it and why you need it and stuff?
Yeah, because did you notice in the eval, I had the lady start it right away with the leash in her lap. Yeah. And then I went and I tied the dog to the door too.
Yeah.
And
he ended up,
they don't realize they're already doing it.
Yeah, he was fine for the most part.
Yeah, they don't realize they're already doing it.
That boy, whenever he did lay down though, he went all the way down. His tail, nose, ears back, sleeping, passed out. Yeah,
we call that a full side layout. So it's one thing when they lay on their belly, but when they shift to their side, and then the whole side of their body is just. Yeah.
No, whenever I tell Mia to down sometimes and she's a little strung up, she'll lay down in a straight line or whatnot. And I'll get that hip off to the side, push her hip over. I'm like, settle it. You're going to be here in a minute. Yeah. Now that makes sense. Yeah. No, I love that. And then I guess last one I wanted to end on is if like somebody was like wanted to become a dog trainer, what would you tell them? Or like, where would you tell them to start?
That's a really great question. I think that I can speak for my journey so far, and you can speak to this as well. It sounds a little bit, but I always started off with like a mentor.
Yeah.
So look in your city, the first thing is Google dog trainers near me.
Yeah.
And pick like the 3 or 4 people that have the highest review rating. You're talking like 100+ Google reviews, 5 stars, kind of a thing. Do research, look at their social media, look at their company, look at their policies and procedures. Find a company that has like a technique you believe in and can get results that you agree with.
Yeah.
Because there are some people that really just want to clicker train and treat train a dog. Yeah. And that's, hey, kudos to you. Like there are people that need that in the world, and you can do that. And there are people like us that do more balanced work with tools. And
there are also people out there though too that are a little bit like too heavy handed and like,
Yep.
Yeah. And that's kind of where I started. Like, I didn't really know any better, because whenever you don't know anything, you don't know anything.
Yeah. And then you learn more and then,
I will say that like, whenever I was like, cause opposite to you, where you started with like just balance, I went to like a more like old school type trainer that was a little bit more like I said, heavier handed, a little bit more like, like we say, like yank and crank, right? And then like, no food, just verbal praise, just petting the dog and stuff like that. And then like, whenever I realized like, oh, you can train a dog with food, I was like, wow, that's fun. They love that.
I had a position where I kind of swung all over the place. Like I started with all positive reinforcement and bridge-based training. I had done some time with a place that did, a much more forceful crank and yank dominance approach. And like you find very quickly what you're into and what you're not. So I would say for someone looking to explore this, find a company, like research a lot of what's around you. For me, I have an apprenticeship. So if you like, I will take in people that have no experience, because I actually, just like you, I love that. Yeah. Because I want to teach you my way, so that if a client comes into the building, you are getting the same program and the same information,
the same stuff. Yeah.
And if they don't, if they learn my techniques and then I invest in their education, like I had you come here and you've taught my trainers, and I've had 2 other of my colleagues from around the US come in and have seminars with my trainers. So I'm building and educating them with outside information.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I want my clients getting the same information. So you can't say, well, like it didn't work for my dog because I didn't learn what this other dog learned.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
But I would find a trainer, see if they have some kind of like a kennel tech.
Yeah, like either go as
entry
an
level
position or a mentee or something, or like start as a kennel tech and kind of work your way up or whatnot. Yeah,
no, I think there are a lot of really good dog training schools out there too.
Yeah.
We have one in Columbus. It's a thing called National Canine. That's a pretty decent dog training school.
I've actually heard of that. Yeah.
Yep. One of my really close trainers in the city, Blake, she works down at Professional Pups. She does a board and train. So when I was doing private lessons and she was doing a board and train, we would just send clients back and forth.
Cool. Yeah.
Because like they wouldn't work for my program, but they'd do hers. And I didn't like doing board and trains, and she didn't like doing private lessons. I was like, let's just quid pro quo this. And then she actually went with me and took my alumni to their first patio event, because I was kind of nervous about like
taking a bunch of crazy, active, barky aggro dogs to a patio. Yeah, it makes sense.
And so her and I came together and we did this really great. I think that's something that the dog world could use so much more of, is so much more collaboration, man.
Friendliness.
Yeah, like I don't know.
Dicks.
You don't have some secret sauce that nobody else is doing. Yeah. Like that, I just never believed in that. So like, I collaborate with trainers
especially
in the city.
Especially too, if it's like pets and stuff. Like I could get like a little bit more ego in like the sport world and stuff like that, like sports or like whatever it is, because there's like titles and stuff on the line or whatnot. But it's like, if you're training dogs to like sit and like be good at home, it's like, we're doing the same stuff. Like we're all doing the same stuff. You
killing it in Tennessee affects nothing about how well I am doing here in Ohio. Facts. Like we could both be super successful and killing it.
Yeah.
And be living amazing lives. Like it doesn't, your success doesn't dampen my success or my shine. 100%. So I'm always been a really open book person, and I want to share information because I have, you have taught me already so much just being here.
Oh,
yeah, I know you have. It's been really great. And that kind of mentorship stuff, like I value so much, is that this equal give and take of information. We don't need to be so walled off and snappy and competitive with everybody, because there are plenty of dogs to go around.
And they're only getting more popular. Like dogs are only getting more popular and more people are getting them and things like that.
Have you heard that dogs are the new kids and pets are the new plants, or plants are the new dogs and dogs are the new kids?
Repeat that.
Okay. So like the generational, what people used to see in the generational, like kids were everything. And then like sometimes you got a pet, right?
Yeah.
But
like the dog
plants
is just a dog.
are the new dogs.
Okay.
And dogs are the new kids. Because everyone calls themselves like a dog mom and a pet parent and things like that. But like dogs are becoming the hot new thing.
What does the plants mean? I don't get the plants.
Oh, you're not in the plant world, huh? No. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know anything about plants.
Because like a lot of people are
getting plants
treating their plants the way we used to treat pets. Like pets used to just, I don't know, maybe this was the farm community I grew in, but like you just like had a farm dog and it was there and it would like run around sometimes.
Same as a kid. When I was a kid, we
things.
had dogs and backyard dogs and stuff. Yeah.
Plants are just there and they exist and they live and you kind of feed and water and take care of them sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So plants are the new dogs.
Yeah.
Dogs are the new kids. You give everything to your dog. You send them to private school, AKA our training programs. Right. You like take them to parks and play dates.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I don't know. I'm grateful as, somebody that owns a dog training business and like makes money off of people getting dogs and getting them trained and want to expand into other areas eventually too. And like, just a ton of different stuff. But yeah, I make my money off of, people having dogs and getting them trained, but I don't like the fact that people like don't have kids and only have dogs now. I think me personally, I think it's a little weird. I think that people need to be having kids. So I like that people have a bunch of dogs and I like dinkwads and sinkwads and, all dual income with no kids and a dog. Like, love that. It's great for business. But at the same time, like we need to populate our planet. we're about to experience, we're like on a real note, like we could be like facing population collapse in like the not too distant future if people keep getting dogs and not having actual human babies. I'll call you a pet parent all you want me to, but it's not a real thing.
Well,
I call myself a dog dad, so I'm on that train too. Don't get me wrong, but yeah, we need to have like actual kids. I know that's where you were intending for that to go, but I think that people need to hear that though, because there really is not enough people having kids. Anyways, okay, rant over. I'm
a loud and proud dink. Kids were never for me. I don't know if it's like I found this to be fairly.
You said I'm only used to hearing dink wad, not just dink. Dual income, no kids. Yeah, with a dog.
Yeah,
with a dog. Yeah, I was going to say
and a cat. Dogs. It's a 2-dog household for us. Any more than that, I feel like is going to be a bit much. One of the fun things that I found really interesting was that when I was in the exotic world a lot, this isn't by any means true 100% of the time, but I have found that when you are a really hardcore animal lover to the extent you see in the exotic worlds, you aren't the biggest people person in the world. So like I would see a lot of people that weren't very big on having a family because they were such hardcore animal lovers.
Makes sense. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I don't know. I don't really know anything about the exotic world, but
it's not true. There are plenty of zookeepers and exotic animal trainers that have families and have kids, but
yeah, some people just get connect with animals better, like than they do with kids, like or people rather. But I've always had a knack for dogs. I've always loved dog training, and so I remember one time as a kid, my mom got me these cards, and it was like baseball cards, but it was with like police dog pictures on them, so it had like the police dog stats and stuff. It was so cool. Like I've always been obsessed with dogs. Like when I grew up, we had border collies that we took to herding lessons on the weekends and stuff at a farm and herding sheep, and then down the street I had world-renowned duck dog trainers that lived down the street from me. And so they take me to training on the weekends. I'm still friends with those guys.
That's cool.
And just was always obsessed with dogs that like bite people and find people and stuff. Like I've just always been obsessed. And so.
My background came from my dad's a veterinarian in a small town, so I was living that like vet kid life always. As soon as I could hold a leash, I was like pottying dogs at the clinic and the patients that were there overnight. So I always, as a kid, had to do like dog walking chores before we could open Christmas presents or like have Thanksgiving dinner. We had to like
talk about rushing your chores.
We had to do kennels. We were like, we got to go do kennels because like when they were boarding there, you had to let them out 3-4 times a day. Yeah. So, and my dad also ran. He like started in a chain of vet clinics and then bought his chain out and ran it. And it's like one of the most successful vet companies in the lower Minnesota.
Wow. Shout out to Pop.
I know. Shout out to Papa Summers. He's killing it. I think a lot of my business etiquette and stuff like came from that because I watched him
do that,
buy a company, run it himself. And my mom did all the bookkeeping stuff. So
you gonna take it over one day?
Oh, the vet world now? Oh God. It's hard. There's like a real lack and shortage of veterinarians out there in the real world now. Like Yeah.
I didn't know that.
No, it's really bad.
I made the face. I'm like, I had no clue, actually.
No, the hardest thing he had is
No wonder their prices are so damn high. Yeah. Supply and demand.
He can't, like, he couldn't get good vets in that, like, want to run practices
because it's not like somebody that wants to be a dog trainer. It's like, oh, I can take you in and make you a dog trainer.
You got to go to medical school, basically.
Yeah, basically, yeah.
And you got to learn a lot of species. Like, doctors just have to learn the human body, and it's just the human body that is the same across lots of races and stuff like that. But he had to learn cows and sheep and pigs and cats and dogs and birds and reptiles and...
Yeah, no thanks.
It was a lot. So you have to go to medical school. You have to do the training. And then on top of it, like, because they have to, one of the big things you have to do as a veterinarian is, you get to do shots with puppies and stuff like that. But a lot of those dogs, like, hate seeing you, and having to put dogs down all the time is, like, heart-wrenching. So like, the emotional toll it takes on vets is crazy.
Have you heard about those companies that, like, go to your house and do it?
Yeah.
Like,
I have one in Columbus here that I work with.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. We talk about the one in Memphis a lot because she helped put one of our employees' dogs down one time. But talk about a bad job. Like, a job, not a bad job, but like, it's got to be every day, and I imagine, like, in, like, their mind or whatnot, it's like, I'm getting to take these, help these dogs transition in, like, their most favorite place ever or whatnot. But it's like, man, can you imagine that as a job? They're, like, having to put dogs down every day of their life. And it's like, these people's favorite thing ever or whatnot. Mm-hmm. I wish more people knew about them, and, like, nobody ever had to take their dog to the vet to get it put down. Yeah. Because, I mean, what a good way to go is, like, at home.
Yeah.
I'm going to show you a video after this. It'll make you cry. We just talked about it on the last podcast that went out, but it's this dog doing bite work, and it's got the tube in its arm while it's doing it or whatnot. And, like, the dog's, like, biting the guy, and, like, as they zoom out, you can see the tube, and they're putting the chemicals in there.
So he could, like, go out doing what he loved.
Yeah.
I love that.
I was literally at my house Saturday night. I had a friend coming over like 5 minutes, and I was literally sitting on the couch just crying. I was like, oh my God. Yeah. Oh my goodness.
But yeah, I grew up in the vet world. So my dad had a small practice, and he did cows and sheep and pigs and the whole nine, and dogs and cats. So I got to watch him run a business.
You have to do a home visit for that kind of stuff, though, don't you? Like a cow and a pig.
Yeah, he had a vet truck with like a fridge in the back. Yeah, and so he would take his truck with all of the stuff gear that he needed to treat those animals. So I went on farm calls with him. That's what he called it. We would go on farm calls. I would, like, at a really young age, that I would deliver, like, puppies and stuff, because everybody has litters over, like, Thanksgiving and Christmas, so they can have New Year's puppies and things like that. So who was delivering puppies before she could open her Christmas presents? It was me. You're welcome to all the Frenchie owners, because they can't deliver normally; they have to have C-sections. Yeah. So you're welcome. But yeah, so I grew up in that world. I got to watch him run a business. I think my biggest takeaway was, like, the way he interacted with clients. Yeah. So difficult clients, client disagreements and things like that. Like, it's always tense because, saving your pet can be a lot of money and things like that. So how he handled that was a huge piece of something that I took from watching him. And then I started doing my own company, and how I treat my clients. I really want to reflect the things that I've learned from him for that, because it was such a big thing.
Well, you can't grow a business that big and, like, be a bad business owner, like, or like be screwing people over and stuff. Like, back in the day, like in the 50s and 60s and 70s, I guess, before, like, social media and, like, the internet didn't come out until the 90s, I guess, or like get popular till the 90s. But, like, before then, I think you could run, like, a scammier business or whatnot. But, like, if you're a bad dog trainer and, like, you're gonna get caught, or if you're a bad vet, or you're a bad floor cleaner because you're stealing people's stuff, or, looking through people's stuff while you're, cleaning their floors or whatever, like, you're gonna get found out about that, because there's too many cameras now. Like, there's too many cameras, too many people. So yeah, I mean, the fact that he's grown it so big and, like, done so well for himself, I mean, speaks volumes to, like, him and his character and stuff. And you can tell here, because, like, you run a pretty solid operation, and you care about your people and not only the clients that you have, but your team too. And you can definitely tell that, so that's very cool. Mm-hmm. Well, I guess anything else you want the people to know? Where should they, if plug your stuff? Where do they find you? On website, Instagram,
absolutely.
All that stuff. So if you'll send it to me, I'll put it in the caption below too, like the description and stuff.
Our, like, tags on Facebook and social media are Taking the Lead Ohio.
Taking the Lead Ohio. Okay,
yep, for both of those. That's also what our website is as well, takingtheleadohio.com, where you can find all of our stuff. We do a lot of the testimonial videos for all of our clients, get a graduation video. So you can hear all of those stories. You can go find them online there. Yeah. We also
got to start putting them on YouTube too.
YouTube is an untapped platform. Yeah. I had TikTok going for a while, and then that went away and came back. So I was like, well,
it was about one day. So.
It was like 12 hours.
That was one day, yeah.
Yeah.
It's not even an excuse.
But I deleted the app, and I can't get back now. I did.
Okay.
They were like, it's gone. And I was like, fine, it's gone. Whatever. Burn forever. And I deleted it.
Can you not get on the website and post?
I can go on from my laptop. But
it's like, geez. Okay.
No, but my assistant that lives out of the country can do it for me too. So, I'll put out all the stories. We also do a lot of like helpful tips and tricks and some funny meme videos too. So that's where you can find us.
Taking the Lead, Ohio. Like I said, we'll link that below.
Yeah.
Link the website.
And if you're in
the
the Columbus area and you need some help with your dog,
she does free transformation sessions. She's not going to sell them to you over the phone. She's not going to sell you over the phone. So
ethics.
Yeah, you can come in and you can meet her, meet the team, sit down here at the facility, and buy some good training. Yeah.
Here it'll be the last little funny quip before we head out. So one of our rites of passage when me and my sister were young and we were dating is that because we would have like our significant others join us for holidays and things like that, and we always had to do like emergency procedures on because he wasn't paying someone overtime holiday time to come do emergency visits. Yeah. So it was us. And then we were the vet techs because he also wasn't paying for a vet tech to come in and like hold a retractor. So one of our rites of passage was anybody that we dated when we had an emergency call come in, we would take our whoever we were dating at the time with us into the call. So we'd bring them into the clinic. It was usually like C-sections or whatever, but then you're like pulling puppies out of dogs and there's blood everywhere. And, so it was a rite of passage that anybody that me or my sister dated, if they couldn't pass the C-section test, like they weren't good enough to make it. So like I've had some
think I'd pass.
I have some boyfriends in the past that got queasy and like had to leave the room.
Yeah.
But I am happy to report that my husband Ryan passed the C-section test. He was like, it was not my favorite thing we've ever done, but I didn't pass out and I stayed on my feet and I
it's making me
didn't
cringe.
need a cold compress. But
it's making me cringe right now. This is like it's kind of funny too, but like after this year, it'll be 10 years training dogs, and I still almost throw up when I pick up dog shit almost every time. When I pick up dog shit, I'm, I'm like almost puking every single time. Yeah. Last night when I left, I called Sally, and everybody knows Sally because she's the co-host. And, she's like, "Oh, mate, did you have to pick up any dog poo today?" And I was like, and she's like, "Cause that'd be really funny if you almost threw up."
I can make him, Sally. I can make him still. The day is young.
We're not picking up dog poop. But I wouldn't pass the C-section test. Yeah, I don't think I could watch like if I like when one day if I'm fortunate enough to get married and have kids. I don't like if my wife has to have a C-section. I don't know if I'll be able to be in the room. You're
gonna sit behind the blue curtain too.
I'm gonna have to sit behind the curtain and be like, "Here you go, honey, hold my hand."
She's going to be reassuring you. Yeah. It's okay, Corey. You'll
Focus on me, not your pain. Yeah. Anyways, well, Lindsay, this has been fun.
Thank you for having me.
A bunch of people get to see this and we get to spread the word about Taking the Lead, Ohio. Because like I said, you got a great operation here. So this has been fun. Guys, if you want to learn more about Lindsay, you can click the buttons below. And that's it. And we'll see y'all later in the next one. Bye.